Oompa, loompa, loompa dee doo. See you for the last hour. I think have a good morning, everyone. Bye, Jane. Hi, Lee. How are you doing? Yeah. I hope you're well. Oh, happy Friday. I think is this your last? Do you go? Do you get a little time away? Am I understanding that correctly? Am I understanding that correctly? That you're getting some time away, which I'm really happy for. I couldn't think of a nicer person for it to happen to. Not really sure what's going on here. Hi, Neil. How are you? Good morning, bud. Bonjour, mes amis. Mes amis. I was just, I went to bed too late last night. I'm going to be honest. I went to bed really late. What's wrong with me? Anyways. Oh, this world. And I also am going to make another confession. That I did a lot of work yesterday, but it only served to confuse me more. I leave Sunday, come home Thursday. I'll be lounging with you all from the beach next week. Oh, Lee, you don't know how happy that makes me. I am truly, truly happy for you. And I think that's wonderful. And we're lucky that you give us so much of your information. It's really amazing. But I went to bed last night. Oh, I'm very loud, aren't I? Fans of Spaced Out Trivia might enjoy the liberal candidate in my writing district is named Claude. Why? Yes, Claude. Go, Claude. Yeah, I think Lee's ready for that little bit of time off. Little tiny bit of time off. I'm really glad. Haggard, how are you doing, darling? Good morning to you, and good morning to you, and good morning to you, and good morning, everyone. And good morning to you. Well, good morning to you too, my friend. How are you? I hope you're doing well. So if I'm a little exhausted today, I'm sorry. It's my fault. Oh, you and me both. The perks of being a specialist means money, fund my travel. Hey, man. And that's fucking, talk about an American dream, baby. No, there's an American dream for you. So yes, we have no bananas. We have no bananas today. And yes, we have no car parts. We have no car parts today. I thought to myself, gosh, Lolo, you should really kind of get an overall this is what we think. this is what we think is going to happen, and this is what's happening right now. And then you'd get into it and you're like, this is going to sound dumb, so forgive me. But one of the things I appreciate, I definitely live a charmed life where I feel compelled to give back when I can. No, it is not corny. I know you, and I know this is true firsthand, just in terms of how ready you are to help other people. And I've seen it in action. So yeah, no, it's one of those. You're a good person. So that's all I'm going to say. You're a good person. And before I cry, I don't want to cry. I'm just kidding. Oh gosh, yeah. Enjoy those moments. Oh, what a wonderful. I love sitting on a beach. That's my vacay plan. I like beaches. I'm already emotional. Don't make me cry. Okay, we're not going to be. No, you're right. It's been a long week. Best thing I heard this morning, if someone gave him the cliff notes to the history of the country and he's only going by the highlighted turning, and does he even, I don't think that, yeah. If he read, yeah, sure. It's interesting. I have a lot for us this morning, so I probably should start getting into it. Give me coffee. Are you here? Oh my God, did I miss you? Oh my God, good morning, darling. I just looked up and realized I missed you. I missed you. How are you? Oh, so today's going to be a little slow because I'm a little like moving slow. Iggy, is Iggy here? No, Iggy's not here. Thought I recognized that name. But we're gonna pull up the old. I mean, I have well, I'll pull up my notes. Yeah, I will admit the last time I opened this document was 11 p.m. So that's good. That means I'm. Are you tired and achy today? Oh no. My next break is to Montreal. Oh, that sounds good. Pepper says, "Good morning, Lolo and fam. I have a half hour before a meeting to hang with you all. Happy Friday." Well, Pepper, I will take that half hour. That's right. And I will take that half hour and that I'll be happy with that. And I'll be absolutely happy with that. Okay, by the way, you guys, I just want to say how uber unhelpful you are in the Discord with the movie selection. It's like chaos. It's like chaos in our Discord when it comes to movies. I think I have one from Max. I've got to look and make sure. I've got one from Max. So we've got the Max Flower Midnight, but we don't have tonight's like main feature because pandemonium in the Discord. Because apparently there's really strong feelings about Val Kilmer. Not necessarily on the pro side, people liked him, but but then but from a movie standpoint, oh, forget about it. It's just split down the middle, I think. Guy from Wyoming sent 3 emails. Oh no, I have not looked at my email. I'm sorry. I'm so bad at that. That actually gives me like a little bit of PTSD from like when I worked in corporate type of settings. So email kind of like freaks me out a little bit now. I think it's one of my triggers. But no, I'll definitely look at it. I definitely use email, so sorry about that. I mean to imply that I don't. Oh my god. Yeah, so today there's a few things I want to go over, and I'll try and keep it somewhat coherent. But I can't really. Oh, it concerns TikTok? Oh, is that Amazon buying it? Or a guy from Wyoming's buying? I don't know. Okay. Which guy from Wyoming's buying it? Oh, my eyes are like a little watery this morning. I'm not crying. It's just watery. I'm not crying today. Not yet. Not yet. No. Love the movie Willow and Real Genius. I know Willow. Willow's one of Bobo's favorites. That's why she was like, I want Willow. She's not even going to be here. Or she's not going to be watching the movie. So I don't know why her vote does not count, frankly. I sent all the info, including Lummox's post screenshot. Oh, well, I'll have to take a look at that. I'll do that while we're playing one of the things so that I can look at it. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm absolutely moving at a glacial pace this morning because I went to bed too late. Old people and children need to go to bed early. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not old. So I have a bunch of things I want to talk about today. Tariffs is really the theme of the day. Thank you, Tom. And I'm just like, I did not get enough sleep. I went to bed around 1:30, 2 a.m., and that's not enough sleep for me because I wake up at 5:30. Or at least I open my eyes at 5:30. Okay. So when I was thinking about, today, obviously I want to kind of get my arms around tariffs. So I want to be really clear about what this time is. First of all, I don't want to give any investment advice. And I don't even mean that as a stupid disclaimer. I mean that as an honest, sincere offering that I have a background in Wall Street and things like that, but it is from a different time and a different place. So I'm just definitely like curious about this stuff, but I am learning just as much as anything. In fact, this is entirely a learning journey. So I just want to make sure I set the expectations, being, low. Buy glow plug. Buy glow plug. My account is down about 9%. Yeah, I think it's gonna. I mean, here's the thing. There's so much, there's just so much that's coming at us with this. But here's what I want to talk about today. I want to kind of get my arms around tariffs a little bit. And then a couple of things popped out while I was, yeah, exactly. The key to happiness is low expectations. I live by that standard, actually, Pepper. So a couple of things emerged as I was doing the research on this. And Big Oil is very excited about, they had a big, Sarah Week was a big kind of extractive industry, I guess, is more the term, conference. So they had their big Sarah Week where the the Secretary of Energy and all these assholes spoke. So it's a pretty big deal of gathering. So Big Oil, I have a little bit about that. I have a little bit about just some economic research from Banco Nacional Paribas, PNP, which is a big bank. They do so trying to get a feel for what are voices who aren't possibly embedded with the Trump administration. Can I find some voices outside of the U.S. media system that are talking about kind of the global economy and what does this mean? Because a lot of it is not making a lot of sense, but it would make sense, I think, if you think of it in the way of what do these moves, who do they benefit? So I think that's the piece that I'm missing a little bit is the really good journalism around who benefits from this chaos. Hi, Peace Love. How are you, darling? Did I miss anyone else? Carla's here. Get ready. Get ready. My comedy partner's here. And Tom Boland's here. Romper, bumper, stomper, boo, baby. Romper, stomper, bumper, boom, bitch. I have to record that. Oh my God. Okay, so Big Oil, I want to talk a little bit about that. I want to talk about, I have some Dave Troy pieces that I'd really like to read. I've just got a ton of stuff for us to read today. Let's put it that way. Okay, so what I would suggest is this is a great stream to put on your headphones or put an earbud in and do whatever you need to do go about your day. Go about your day. And I will oh shoot. I will speak into your ear. All right. And then I also wanted then I started, so I just asked myself a bunch of questions, right? Like, what does all this tariffs mean? Does he really mean to do this? Is this a mistake? Is it on purpose? What does it mean if it's on purpose? And another thing I asked myself is, whose voice am I curious about right now? In terms of hearing what they think of all of this, right? So I thought, who's the person I would want to know how they think about all this? Well, I think I want to know how Peter Thiel thinks about all this. So I found a couple of old pieces of Peter Thiel talking about this kind of stuff. So we're going to kind of tiptoe through the tulips of my mind. And I apologize in advance for the tour, for the 3-hour tour. But we've just got a lot of stuff to read. Okay, so without further ado, I'm going to open this panel. I'm going to open my panel. I'm going to open my panel. I'm sure there was a better way to do this, but this is why I'm not a producer. A producer in shows is really important because a producer helps put together all the material, and then the person like me can, I don't know, it's just easier. Let's see. Good morning, gal. How are you, darling? Oh, I will whisper truth in your ear. Peace, love. I promise. I will read from good sources. I promise. I will label my opinion as an opinion. I promise. Okay, so let's see. Read first. Okay. I had made a big note for myself. Read first on Finance Friday. Okay. So I want to show you something, and you're gonna really hate it. I love you guys bonding in chat. I just love you. Okay, here we go. Where am I? Where am I? Where am I? Where am I? Where are you? Where am I? Where are you? Where am I? Where are you? All right, gotta make this a little smaller. Is that a weird sound? What's that sound? What's that? What's that? I wanted to do a podcast with my daughter, and I wanted it to be called "What's That?" Because it's like we both love horror movies and like investigating, or we would imagine ourselves enjoy investigating haunted houses. So we thought we'd call a show "What's That?" What's that? What's that? What's that? All right. Jim Dish. Good morning, Jim Dish. Good morning. I have 2 comments. First of all, this formula they came up with is absurd, but my question continues to be, what happens with this tariff money coming in and who controls it? Well, I'm really glad you asked that question, Jim Dish, because that might not be something I get to today, but we do want to talk about wealth funds. And actually, I heard something yesterday about that. I'm trying to recall exactly where I heard and what I heard. I was watching a lot of Bloomberg yesterday, and there was a reason for that. And let me say this too about the Penguin Seal Island, mishmash. The Penguin Seal Island, I think, and this is my conjecture, I think they put those on there intentionally, knowing that people would find out that there are no humans there, but that the media would obsess about the fact that they put out islands with no humans. Now, in their minds, that's a flex. That's a great joke that they pulled. And it serves a more important purpose. Oh, here we go. Lee says, it goes into the general fund. HMT, harbor maintenance tax, goes to port upkeep. Oh, interesting. I need a schooling too. So that's what I think. I think they bargained on the fact that people would be talking so much about the taxation or the tariffs on an island that is uninhabited that we would less focus on the actual damage that this particular haphazard approach is actually doing. I can definitely see a world. I mean, you have to think like Dan Scavino. Okay? I need you to start thinking like Dan Scavino. What would Dan Scavino do? And he would throw up something totally ridiculous, and he doesn't care if the administration looks like a bunch of idiots. We have to get over that. They don't give a shit if they look like a bunch of idiots. They just don't. Set up the Zoom, and I'll scrub my branding from some slides and make a presentation. Okay. When do you want to do this, Lee? Seriously. Do you want to do it like now? Because I've got shit now that I can send to you, or I can send you a link, but I don't want to make you, I want the timing to be your timing. You know what I mean? So let me know. Actually, let me see if I've got my collab. Where is my collab? Collab screen, share window? What's that? Welcome to Collab Cam. Share a link with your guests, then they'll be able to join. Verify their identity. Enjoy your stream. Blah, blah, blah. So what's my link? Oh, I see. Oh, okay. Ooh, I have a copy. I have a link. Okay, webcam source. I wonder if I can say, oh, that's my webcam. I see. Never mind. Share video source. No, I don't want that. Webcam and microphone will be broadcast to your guests. Oh, okay, that's fine. All right, it's copied. Oh, I'm so interested about this. Let me move this up a little bit so I know where it is. Okay. And where is it? Sorry. Okay. All right. I'm going to signal this to you, my dear. I'm going to signal this to you, my dear. Is that you? Yay, that's you. This is a collab cam. Stream. So this is a Streamlabs link I'm signaling you, darling. I've never used it, but so we'll just be real cautious with it as we step our way through. But if you want to join on that, Neil, it will be on my mind anyway, but I appreciate the thought. Don't do it during your vacation. Yeah, exactly. And don't worry about, I have a meeting in an hour next week. Okay, perfect. Oh my God, Lee, this is perfect. Just ignore what I signaled you. This is perfect. We will do when you're ready, when you have time. And you know what? And you don't have, I actually don't want you, well, I mean, you have to do it during your vacation, I guess, because you don't have any time during your regular life. But that's okay. We'll figure it out. Anyway, thank you. Thank you for even considering that. All right. So let me show you what I've got here. Let me show you. Do I want to allow? Oh, yeah. Okay. Okay, I will. All right, here we go. Let me do this. Oh, damn. No. How'd I lose everything? Oh, here we go. Oh, it's all just too big for me. There we go. Oh, it's too large. Okay, here we go. Oh, I see what the problem is. Okay. So what you see on your screen is ridiculous, but it's very short. It's not, it looks really goofy and terribly boring, and it probably is, but it's also, oh, I don't think I could go that far. Come on. What is wrong with you people? Oh. Okay, here we go. Charts of the week. A little bigger. Okay, well, this is good enough. Okay, let me check on budget. I mean, an hour to play amazingly. Neil, it will be on my mind anyway, but I appreciate the thought. Jim Dish, make the poor poorer, tank the market, then oligarchs buy up everything. They could care less about the economy. It's so true, Tom. Businesses do pay them, but they have to make it up somewhere. Absolutely. Anyone who thinks that a business will eat the cost is delusional. They have a fiduciary responsibility to the shareholders. That's true. Guess what I'm wondering is, Jim Dish, is how our government makes money from them. Businesses with thin margins won't eat the tariffs to stay at a price point, and prices never go down once they go up. Yeah, that's true. Except gas, and here's the other thing. Oh, you are in the Streamlab? Oh my God. I don't even know what to do now. Hold on. I don't even know what to do. What am I supposed to do? I'm scared. Okay, wait. Oh, wait. I know what I'm going to do. Hold on. I'm going to put something out. Just ignore this for a while, guys. Okay, wait. Hold on. Oh, wait. Actually, just wait. Just a second. We're coming back, but I'm going to do something. I'm doing something here. I guess I wasn't ready for it. Okay, so wait, I'm gonna first put on a little cover. I just am so nervous about this. I don't even want to do it. Okay, so then I don't remember how to do all this. Okay, so that's that. And then on this, I do this. Okay, now I know what I'm doing. Isn't this fun? Live television? Okay, now I'm not, you're not on screen. Okay, so let's see what, can I hear you? I don't even know what I'm supposed to do. Oh, there you are. Wait, I see you. I love you so much. Oh, all right. I can see you, but do you want to cover, I can't hear you though. Is it you? Is that, I have your volume up though. Let's make sure we can hear you. It might be me. More than likely it's me. Oh wait, let me make sure. Let me do one thing. That's so cute. Oh my god, you're adorable. Okay. Let's see here. Yes. Yeah. Let's see. God damn. This is so great, but I don't oh wait. Oh, here we go. Here we go. Here we go. All right. I'm showing you. Oh wait, where is it? Why is it not showing you? All right, are you talking, Lee? Oops. Let me go back. Wait, where'd you go? Oh, there you are. This is so weird. I haven't used this before. I can't hear you. I don't know why. Damn it. Okay, that's it. I'm not doing this. Okay, Lee. All right, we're gonna figure this out. Mwah! Now I know what I need to figure out. God damn. God damn it. One of these days. I thought you just hit the button. And everything looks like she has sound. I'm so sorry. Let me get out of this studio mode. Hold on. There we go. I'm back. I'm sorry about that. Ugh. I'll fix it, and I apologize. Oh my God, Lee. How precious of you to come on and try and troubleshoot that live with me. I appreciate you so much. Yes, we will test it out and try again. Yeah, we can do a private test or something like that when it's like whenever you have time. Oh my gosh, I'm so grateful. But what a lovely way to start my day, to get to see my beautiful friend Lee. So that's nice. That's a benefit. Hi, Teresa. How are you? How are you? Jim Dish. I'm not sure people realize what huge tariffs on companies that make shoes, boots, apparel will have. Think Asics, Nike, clothing, handbags, Vietnam and China. Those industries aren't coming back. Yeah, I don't really. They're not coming back. They're not coming back. Maybe we should all move to Discord. Yeah, maybe we should just do the show on Discord. That's a great idea. Actually, yeah, that's probably not a bad idea. We could probably figure that out. Had a couple stop by. Nice. All right, so let me try and do a little bit of ground settling here. So let me see. I'm gonna move this over here. So one of the things I thought about was, well, so what do these other people in the country, in the world, what do other people in the world actually think is happening? Are they panicking or that kind of stuff? I don't know. I was told that the auto OEMs don't seem nervous yet. Makes me think they've been told there is a deal in the works. So that actually is a really good point. Because a lot of economists too or a couple that I read as I was going through this, there's definitely a couple of schools of thought, and I have one piece later on that I'll read about that. But there is kind of the surface reaction, which is, this is so stupid. Why are they doing this? This is so stupid. Oh, that's right. The retaliatory tariffs were announced today by China, Canada, and the EU. No. Even if businesses return, most would take years, right, to build out. So, I mean, that's the thing, is that imposing these tariffs and creating a trade war with countries that you actually didn't even have any trade issues with, only serves one thing. And so the plan, according to the Mar-a-Lago documents, the accords and all these things, is that the desire is to bring manufacturing back to the United States. And as part of that expansion, thing, oh, they did a segment on Tintin. Oh, awesome. As part of that expansion, oh no, I lost where I was going. That's okay. Unless those trade issues were made up by a certain clump. Which actually, that's the point that some of the pundits were making yesterday, is that there are some countries where we were actually benefiting from the trade setup. And so this kind of additional tariff on the country that are part of that is completely ridiculous, because it's only serving to turn that partner away. And that's what's happening, right? What's happening is that other countries are reaching out and creating trade partnerships with countries they might not have had before. And yes, Max, the plan, according to Mar-a-Lago Accord, this is not like, oh, Lolo just made this up. No, this is what has been documented within kind of, the administrative plans, is that if they have access if they can craft deals with partner countries where we get access to their natural resources, plus they take a certain amount of our exports, plus, whatever those trade agreements are, then also become extortion for protection. It's a protection racket. That's what they want. They want to create a protection racket for the world. And through that protection racket versus diplomatic relations, which actually, I'm sure you can make the argument that in the past it probably was like a protection racket. This one is much more above the waves, if you will. And so that is kind of like why the tariffs don't go away when fentanyl goes away. The tariffs don't go away when Canada reduces the. Oh, really? Where is she? Where is she? Where is she? Where's Laura Loomer? I'll find out. So anyway, so there's bringing manufacturing back. I don't know if he actually totally means that, because if there can be control over parts of the world that have the resources that are needed in order to generate profits and energy for AI, which is another thing I thought about this morning, then there's no need for the other parts. One thing I thought about AI this morning, like we were talking about Doggy yesterday, and why, if Elmo's going to leave and all this kind of stuff. And I think the big aha moment for me was that I could see a world, and again, this is my opinion, my kind of assessment, but I can see a world in which Elmo, as part of his plan, part of his role in this, is he's able to go into the federal government, gather the raw material information, data, right, from different agencies, all different agencies, right? Can you imagine a world where that information is then fed into his XAI machine and is then contracted by the U.S. government to run with his AI any functions that would normally have been done by federal employees? Can you see a world where that might be an outcome that Elmo would hope for? I can. So that hit me this morning like, oh, well, that makes a lot of sense. If I were a businessman and I wanted to have big contracts for my companies, and one of the biggest contracts could be using my AI to run the federal government, and you don't need a lot of people, I think that's the plan. I think that's in their minds, in not necessarily in the back of their minds, you know? Grassley and Cantwell introduced to limit presidential trade power. Whoa. Wow. Are we getting a little in our boots here? Let's see what Laura Loomer's up to today. What are you doing in LA? Bill Maher will be held accountable today for his egregious defamation of me. Okay. All right. The video deposition. Oh, at Beverly Hills? Where? Where? I won't be going live because I'll be in California, a video deposition of Bill Maher. Last year, da-da-da-da-da. Oh, is this about a blowjob? Wait, okay, I'll find out. I wonder where it is. I'll find it. Oh, that's fine. Yeah, I don't know the source, but this is Substack. I know, but I put it on the list. Let me pull it up here. I did put it on the list for today to read. Oh, wait, no, I didn't read this one. Oh, well, there you go. This is perfect. Oh, no, I didn't have this one. Oh, my God, this is great. Okay, so this is good. I'm actually going to go to that because that's really good, too. All right. Will tariffs bring back? So this is the chart that you're looking at. Who shared the simplifies? Yeah. This is BNP Paribas. I'm so sorry. I'm not saying that right. But it's a huge bank. Huge bank. I don't know. Is it in France? It's French, right? French bank? Am I right about that? And so I think this is the question I had in my mind. It's definitely relevant. Will tariffs bring industrial jobs back to America? And I don't understand all the economic charts, so I don't try to pretend. But then I went down here and I said, oh, I'm just going to read this. This is very short. So this is their report from 3/26/2025. Banque Nationale de Paris. Oui. Okay, Banque Nationale de Paris. Back at President Trump has promised to bring manufacturing jobs back to the USA and make America again the manufacturing superpower of the world that it once was. This, of course, is the foremost objective of his radical tariff policy. Alongside, these are bankers, okay? Alongside raising revenue and pressuring trading partners to deliver non-trade related concessions. In his analysis, the U.S. president and the U.S. persistent trade deficit is evidence that the rest of the world is ripping off the U.S. through unfair trade barriers and overly weak exchange rates. As a result, the argument goes, the U.S. industrial base is being hollowed out, undermining the living standards of Americans. But leaving aside the issue of whether tariffs are an effective remedy, which we have covered blah, blah, blah in different places, is this diagnostic even correct? The charts below suggest not. For one thing, U.S. industrial production has been the most resilient of all the major advanced economies over the last 15 years. Moreover, after an initial marked decline in the first decade of the century, industrial jobs have recovered in the U.S. even as they were declining nearly everywhere else, including in China. From a peak in 2012, China lost 17 million industrial jobs, while the U.S. gained nearly 1. This remarkable accomplishment reflects a labor productivity that is one of the highest in the world. Between Q4 2019 and Q1 2024, that's the Biden administration, hourly labor productivity in industry rose by 8.8% in the U.S. versus 0.8% in the Eurozone, exacerbating the 2.1 labor productivity growth gap observed by the two economies between 1995 and 2019. It would be a paradox if, by reducing the competitive pressures faced by U.S. manufacturers, depriving them of North American supply chain efficiencies, and increasing the cost of intermediate goods, President Trump's tariffs ended up undermining the very bedrock of America's industrial resilience. Because what struck me about this piece, too, is that manufacturing value added, okay, so I don't know what the measure of that is, but it shows that China is at this point, as of 2023, it looks like, or 2022, it looks like as of this point, they are dominant in whatever manufacturing value added is, which I'm sure blah, blah, blah. But this one I thought was interesting. Manufacturing employment, pretty easy to understand. And if you look at it, and if you look during here's 2020, here's COVID. Can you see that? I'm sorry. Make sure you can see that. Here's COVID, right? 2020. And this is the US. And now look at manufacturing employment. Kind of hit a plateau. But that's it. Pretty damn high. So I guess what I want to say is you guys have been lied to, chuds. We are a manufacturing employer. We have grown our manufacturing employment in this country. In fact, we're far outpacing the rest of our G7 compatriots, it looks like, from this data. Not anymore, but So anyway, that's what the French are saying. And we know they don't give a fuck. I mean, they do, but they Gal, that Substack piece is very interesting. Gives me talking points for my DC advocates who keep spinning this as positive. That's really interesting. All right, I want to read this piece that Gal shared. I really appreciate that. Because I hadn't put this on the list, but it's perfect and it's great. All right, an orchestrated recession, Trump's tariffs, AI, and the future of U.S. power. So the tariffs are here, except maybe they will go away soon. As Trump said in his speech on Tuesday night before Congress, tariffs are about making America rich again and making America great again. And it's happening, and it will happen rather quickly. This is before the SODU. There will be a little disturbance, wait, what day is it? March 5th, 2025. Sorry. Yeah, whatever his thing was. Tariffs are about making America rich again, and it's happening, and it will happen rather quickly. There'll be little disturbance, but we're okay with that. It won't be much. Oh, just wait until you hear. Yeah, perfect. We're now looking at a 25% tax on Mexican imports, 25% tax on Canadian imports except energy at 10%, and 20% on Chinese imports, most of which will be shouldered by the U.S. consumer. Joey Politano, one of the best, wrote a detailed write-up here. Oh, well, let's bookmark that for a minute. On top of these tariffs, I hit my thing. On top of these tariffs, there's looming government shutdown. Oh yeah, we forgot about that. Oh yeah, definitely. I'll watch the Tintin. There is looming government shutdown, talk of easing sanctions on Russia. The stock market is selling off. Consumers are worried. The House GOP budget plan pushes for $4.5 trillion in tax cuts, and the GDP looks set to shrink. Then we have AI, which could permanently change the labor market and geopolitical balance in ways that we just aren't paying attention to at the moment. It's true. It's a lot. In this piece, we'll look at what looks like a scattershot economic upheaval, from sweeping tariffs to massive federal layoffs, and consider the chance that is in fact part of an orchestrated reset. Oh, it is. I'm sorry. This is all going. This is ugh. That's why I'm so starved for information, because I just feel like I don't quite understand some of the aspects of it. And consider the chance that is in fact, there is a lot of speculation in the piece, but layered on top is the rapid rise of AI, which could either amplify or undermine the administration's economic strategy. Throughout the halls of history, a bell has been rung that cannot be unrung over the past several weeks. This is a fundamental rewiring of North American economy on purpose. But why? So there are a few theories here, which range from 1, Donald Trump just really likes tariffs, to 2, the administration is orchestrating an economic slowdown, partially influenced by the potential of AI, to partially to reset real estate. Elon Musk has said as much. Fisher King, if Trump succeeds in forcing through mass deportations, combined with Elon hacking away at the government, firing people, and reducing the deficit, there will be an initial severe overreaction in the economy. This economy is propped up with debt, generating asset bubbles and artificially suppressed wages as a result of illegal immigration. Markets will tumble. But when the storm passes and everyone realizes we are on sounder footing, there will be a rapid recovery to a healthier, sustainable economy. History could be made in the coming 2 years. Sounds about right. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, Lurch, as I call him, who really wants 10-year yields to go down and is focused on increasing the desirability of treasuries, which is a sign of slowing economic growth expectations, said this on CNBC when asked about the potential of a recession. We're going to re-privatize the economy as we bring down government spending and get the private sector moving again. That may not be perfect 1-to-1 ratio. He really talks like that. I'm not kidding. That's his voice. He then added that when asked when it becomes Trump's economy, the president said probably 6 or 12 months out. I think I would agree with that. Well, 6 to 12 months. That's the timeline for setting economic responsibility. But what happens in the meantime? Trump announced the tariffs with his characteristic bluntness, telling reporters on March 3rd, no room left for Mexico or Canada. They're all set. They go into effect March 4th. The market literally cratered as he talked, the folly of taking one seriously, but not literally or something, despite Bessent coming out and saying, Wall Street, don't worry, it's just Main Street. U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent projected confidence in President Donald Trump's expansive plans to tariff foreign nations, even as the stock market slumped in reaction to the first round of levies on Canada and Mexico. Over the medium term, which is what we're focused on, it's a focus on Main Street. Wall Street's done great. Wall Street can continue to do fine, but we have a focus on small business and consumers. You do? Bessent said on Fox and Friends Tuesday. So we're going to rebalance the economy. Really, Scott? To be sure, Bessent argued that there would be a transition period as the tariffs kick off this month and next, but he argued that the market sell-off was only temporary. A tariff is a tax imposed on imported goods. Like all taxes, they are a source of government revenue. Tariffs are paid by the importer, the person bringing the thing in from abroad, and the costs are typically passed on to consumers despite Trump's claims otherwise. And here's the thing where I think they make money on tariffs is because well, I won't say it. let me read experts and not try and read through experts. That's it. Let's see. Tariffs are paid by the importer, the person bringing the thing in from abroad, and the costs are typically passed on to consumers despite Trump's claims otherwise. Dow down 1271. Pass through. There's a debate on how much of the cost does get passed along, but the Tax Foundation's estimates that the current state of tariffs would result in an average tax increase of $1,072 per household in 2025. Target is already warning of price hikes, and automakers are extremely concerned, and as cars are expected to go up by 12,000. There's a very good paper from Alberto Cavallo et al. That shows the 2018 tariffs fell on firms, U.S. firms, the importers, not the exporters like China, with uneven impacts on retail prices, stating in a summary thread, if tariffs persist and firms can no longer absorb the cost, higher consumer prices are likely to follow. The U.S. imported about 413 billion goods from Canada, 505 billion from Mexico, and 440 billion from China in 2024. So this is a very large part of our economy that is now facing a significant economic headwind. This is the largest U.S. tariff hike in a century, one that puts disastrous Smoot-Hawley to shame. As David Kelly said, the trouble with tariffs, to be succinct, is that they raise prices, slow economic growth, cut profits, increase unemployment, worsen inequality, diminish productivity, and increase global tensions. Other than that, they're fine. Warren Buffett said that tariffs are an act of war to some degree. Tariffs aren't just about an economic cost, but a cost to trust, goodwill, and social cohesion, all of which can't be fixed by take-backsies. Resolutions have been introduced to Congress to terminate Trump's authority to impose tariffs on Canada and Mexico, but the retaliation has been swift and severe. Canada has implemented retaliatory tariffs on $155 billion in American products, Ontario's Premier, Doug Ford, even added a new threat to cut off nickel exports to the U.S., to put pressure on its manufacturing sector, and to force Canadian liquor stores to remove U.S. manufactured alcohol from its shelves. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, but it's Carney now, will not lift Canada's retaliatory tariffs if U.S. President Donald Trump leaves any tariffs on Canada in place. And Mexico's President Claudia Sheinbaum said her government will retaliate on Sunday. China announced 15% tariffs on U.S. chicken, wheat, corn, and cotton, plus 10% tariffs on sorghum, soybeans, pork, beef, aquatic products, fruit, vegetables, and dairy products. More importantly, they have also vehemently retorted against the tariffs, stating, if war is what the U.S. wants, be it a tariff war, a trade war, or any other type of war, we're ready to fight till the end, which is alarming. I'm trying. That's right. I'm better than Wolf Blitzer. The European Union is likely next on Trump's list, with him threatening 25%. Yes, he did. Blah, blah, blah. Inside the U.S., Trump has also told American farmers to get ready to start making a lot of agricultural product to be sold inside the United States, which is troubling. Because one, Trump spent $28 billion subsidizing farmers for the much smaller tariff impacts in his first term. And two, the U.S. imports about 80% of the potash used to fertilize American farms from Canada. They just can't start making stuff here all of a sudden. There is an assumption from Republican representatives that their constituents will do what it takes to support the president's policies on tariffs, and that it will just take a little patience on the front end, which does feel like a lot to ask people who voted for Trump because he promised to ease their economic pain. Young people are turning away from him for this very reason. Support for Trump handling of the economy among young men slipped negative 14 points between mid-January and mid-February, via a report from Puck News. The Republicans have also stopped doing town halls, which is the exact opposite of what an elected representative of the public should be doing right now. And to provide counter-argument here, although there isn't much of one, much research does point to broad-based tariffs being harmful. Just look at what happened to McKinley. There might be some improvement to domestic manufacturing, but considering almost every industry imports something from abroad, the improvements will be slim and at great cost to the rest of the economy. And this chart says new tariffs cancel out low and moderate income families' modest tax cuts from the 2017 tax law extension. Oops. So here it shows that for the bottom 20%, second, middle, fourth, 80 to 90, and the top 1%, the effects of extending the 2017 tax law, I would imagine, was this savings? Oh, the percent change in after-tax income. Look at this. The percent change, the effects from the 2017 tax law. The bottom 20% of us in the country are the after-tax income rose 0.6%. Now, extending these tax laws, combined with new taxes on Canadian, Mexican, and Chinese imports, will now be at losing. The poorest will lose. Modest gain. Come on now. Give me a break. Oh, but now we're getting into it. 90th percentile and above, you guys are going to be fine. But it is eating away at that really great gain you got from the tax cut. Note, only a 10% tariff on Chinese imports included here, but the new March actions raised the tax on Chinese imported goods from 10 to 20%. Oh, okay. It's a very ineffective and counterproductive way to improve things. The data pointing to a slowdown. So anyways, on to the broader slowdown. Jake was quite prescient here. If I wanted to crash the economy, I think I'd put on indiscriminate tariffs, push cheap labor out of our country, slash public jobs, cut public spending, promote an alternative to the dollar, and incentivize every global ally look to partner with China. I don't know what that means, but that's fine. Yeah, that sounds about right. I really don't know how to write this piece without sounding like a tinfoil hat, but the data and stances have made it pretty clear. I know, that's what I feel like too. If the bankers are saying it, There's a problem. If you haven't seen my latest video that I dropped last night, please do watch it. Maybe we'll watch it at the end. To look to partner. Yeah, I think that's what he meant. Okay, actual GDP. The Atlanta Fed's GDP Now projections have absolutely collapsed. 4 weeks ago, they were projecting positive 3.9% growth for Q1 2025. 2 weeks ago, they fell to positive 1.5%. And now they're forecasting a negative 2.8%. That's a staggering drop in just 1 month. Due to a drop in real private fixed investment, businesses don't want to invest in uncertainty, which is why some of them are paying millions of dollars to meet with the president at Mar-a-Lago, and why BlackRock now controls the Panama Canal. Also, American factory activity last month edged closer to stagnation, slowing growth combined with a faster inflation. As new orders and employment contracted and a gauge of prices paid for materials jumped to the highest since 2022. That 20% is in addition to tariffs on Chinese goods that have been in place since 2018 of 25%. Semiconductors are an upcoming target for more tariffs. What's the status of the CHIPS Act? That's an excellent question. I'm going to make a note to myself here. Because I was looking at the thing that Oomph actually asked about a couple days ago, which was the new EO around foreign investment. So the Department of Commerce already has a function where they kind of concierge foreign investment into the country, helping new business owners establish businesses here, all kinds of stuff. There's the EO that was issued this week talked about a special office now that will be created within the Department of Commerce. So a new function, new money being spent at the Department of Commerce to help with investments that exceed $1 billion. And so that's what that EO does. And really, all I saw through that was they want to make it really easy to sell off and sell ownership in America. And it's all about rich people. It's all about money. Yeah. Let's see. Okay, I've got one. Here we go. I'm going to read that after a Bloomberg article. Let me go ahead and get through this, and then we'll move on to that. And then I want to watch that the Daily Show thing or whatever you sent was. Oh, the date of this Substack was early. It was March 5th. Okay. A drop in consumer spending as people grow increasingly concerned about the economy, a huge uptick in imports as businesses tried to prep for tariffs. Measuring GDP, the administration has also talked about changing how they measure GDP to exclude government spending. Brian Albrecht has a good write-up of GDP here, basically saying, listen, we already have a GDP number that excludes government spending. It's very similar to the regular GDP number. The administration has also disbanded the 2030 Census Advisory Committee and the Federal Economic Statistics Advisory Committee, which is worrying for getting accurate economic data. Vibes. Consumer sentiment has cratered to levels we haven't seen since November 2023. The University of Michigan survey shows inflation expectations rising from 3.2% in January to 3.5% in February, the largest increase since May 2021 during the early pandemic inflation surge. And of course, there's the massive federal job cuts. Over 250,000 federal employees have lost their jobs so far. That's 10% of the federal workforce gone in a matter of weeks. That's about half of the job losses we saw in February 2009 during the financial crisis. But it has a ripple effect. Federal employee firing means approximately 3 jobs are affected when you consider the contractors associated. Just look at Oklahoma, where 600 federal employees at Tinker Air Force Base facing termination represents nearly 2,000 livelihoods disrupted in a single community. That will be tough for any community to recover from. The slash and burn approach to governance. The administration has informed NOAA that 2 buildings critical for weather forecasting will have their leases canceled, including the Weather Forecast Nerve Center in College Park, Maryland. There were also mass layoffs at the NOAA, National Oceanic and something Administration. something. Uh, Arrow, I don't know. Which could disturb the economy in ways we can't really imagine at the moment, as understanding weather is foundational to understanding the flow of goods and services. Martin O'Malley, former Social Security Commissioner, has given 30 to 90 days before Social Security collapses based on the recent actions of the government in cutting jobs and closing field offices. Trump has also now discussed canceling the CHIPS Act. Here we go. Which nearly quadrupled U.S. investment in manufacturing. There are many more examples here of policies that will likely hurt more than help. Alienating allies. Trump has made it very clear to our allies that the U.S. is not to be trusted right now, following the Curtis Yarvin isolationist playbook pretty closely. Yarvin is wrong about a lot, but Trump seems to be following this. Back in January 2022, Yarvin wrote that Trump should withdraw all U.S. forces and diplomats from across Europe. He wrote, "In fact, I think that if America could decide that we have no dogs in any fights besides our own, and who would fight us but to fight our dogs, this world without allies would prove superior not only for all Americans, but also everyone else." The situation with President Zelensky in the White House was extremely embarrassing. Zelensky is now being coached on how to talk to President Trump, and it was just another sign of the world without allies. Howard Lutnick. Hello, everybody. The Secretary of Commerce, Converse, has said that the Trump administration would balance the federal budget with spending cuts, saying that it would help growth and reduce the interest rates paid by consumers. He ended with, "This is going to be the best economy anybody's ever seen, and to bet against it is foolish." So there is some kind of plan here. The strategy behind a slowdown. So why would anyone want a recession? There are several strategic reasons that become clear when you look at the bigger picture. Political timing. If a recession hits now, the recovery timing could be perfect for the 2028 election cycle. Create a slump now, rebuild later, and take credit for the recovery just in time for re-election campaigns. Market dynamics. A recession would force the Federal Reserve to aggressively cut interest rates, which Jerome Powell has said he will not. So you know. Now, one central bank did a few weeks ago cut their rate. I think the Swiss or someone. So there's a lot of pressure on Jerome Powell. But I feel like he's trying to do the right thing and hold off the wolves. Let's see. Okay, a recession would force the Federal Reserve to aggressively cut interest rates, potentially boosting real estate and financial markets after an initial downturn. Trump is a real estate man, after all. As mentioned, Besant has actually said they're focused on increasing the desirability of treasuries. A recession would help achieve exactly that by driving investors to safe haven assets like fixed income bonds and stuff. This might explain why Trump's Secretary of Agriculture, Brooke Rollins, suggested that the solution to high egg prices for Americans is to get some chickens and raise them in your backyard. Great during a bird flu. There's no plan other than a slowdown and no sign of aid if the slowdown comes. Budget strategy. An economic downturn provides justification for cutting social programs like Medicaid and SNAP benefits while simultaneously pushing through $4.5 trillion in tax cuts. In a growing economy, these cuts would seem contradictory, but in a downturn, they can be framed as a necessary austerity, and tax cuts can be seen as freeing up capital. The ideology of creative destruction. The administration seems to be pursuing rather haphazardly, even if you agree with the policies, the idea that you must tear down existing structures to build something new. We've heard this rhetoric with phrases like drain the swamp and dismantle the deep state. In economic terms, it means deliberately breaking down economic structures to rebuild them according to your preferred vision. Yeah, that's exactly it. That's what they're trying to say, is having backyard chickens probably is less safe for bird flu exposure than anything else. Looking at the broader strategy at play, what's becoming evident is a profound ideological split within American capitalism itself. One group, now ascendant in the administration, like those involved with the crypto strategic reserve, appears to be using this moment of global uncertainty to deliberately create economic turbulence. In this worldview, short-term economic pain isn't just an acceptable cost, it's a necessary cleansing mechanism to reset the economy towards this nationalist vision. When administration officials talk about reprivatizing the economy or making treasury bonds more desirable, They're reframing what would typically be seen as economic contraction to something aspirational, as something aspirational. As Ben Carlson memed, it's all about messaging when you try to destroy the economy. They're not crashing the economy, they're lowering mortgage rates. They're not triggering inflation, they're reshoring American manufacturing. It's a perspective that treats economic suffering as a form of tough medicine rather than a policy failure. Good old ABCT. I don't know what that is. I just want to Austrian business cycle theory. Ooh, never heard of it. Never heard of it. There was something else. Oh, I want to pull that up. Mm-mm-mm. That's great. So basically, 10-year yields go down, stocks go down, everything goes down, the economy slows, the debt gets refinanced, Federal Reserve has to cut rates, then everything explodes upwards again, and boom, a beautiful linear economy. But this tweet, I can't wait for there to be a recession that will uniquely not affect me at all. Then I will buy a really cheap house. Confusion is more powerful than uncertainty. If people don't know which way is up or down, then it's very difficult to make any sort of decision. This path assumes a lot out of the American public and assumes a lot of goodwill from others. We don't really have a lot of goodwill. Alienating allies is a good way to, 1, end up alone, and 2, dislodge the dollar as the reserve currency. Katie Martin at the FT Financial Times wrote a great article here about how desperate investors are to get away from the United States at the moment. Julia Coronado pointed out the following as an erosion of the USD hegemony. 1, erosion of rule of law, referring to cuts to government contracts. 2, undermining R&D research, innovation, and services economy. 3, Mar-a-Lago Accord. I'm not happy that that is coming up again. Mar-a-Lago Accord of devaluating the dollar and issuing non-marketable long-term debt. That's right. Create an illiquid market and say you've got to buy 100-year treasury bonds. Country A. And in exchange for you buying those 100-year treasury bonds, we'll give you protection. It's crazy. If we lose reserve currency status, none of these games will matter that much. Germany is already building out their defense with a $500 billion 10-year fund for investment, all defense spending above 1% of GDP, not counted for the debt break, and a big commitment to building out, mostly because the U.S. cannot be trusted. So we have an economic slowdown, orchestrated or otherwise, but the mindset around the slowdown represents a profound shift in how we think about economic management. We're moving away from stability as a primary goal towards volatility as a tool for transformation. For those of us who will live through the consequences, it's a high-stakes experiment with our economic future. The AI thing. But Ezra Klein had a very interesting interview with Ben Buchanan, the AI advisor for Biden, that essentially boiled down to AGI is here and it's going to disrupt everything as we know it. He states, quote, I think we're on the cusp of an era in human history that is unlike any of the eras we have experienced before. It's not Web 3. It's not vaporware. A lot of what we're talking about is already here. So on one hand, we have an administration deliberately rewiring America's economic relationships with the world through tariffs and deglobalization. On the other, we face emergence of AI systems capable of performing most cognitive tasks better than humans. I guess not. Both reflect a shift away from the global systems that define the post-Cold War era towards something more fragmented, more nationalist, and potentially more volatile. Volatile, not viable. And so if one wished, one could argue with the administration's focus on deglobalization through whatever they keep doing create some sort of economic space for technological transformation, aka a forced recession would force companies to restructure supply chains, rethink labor costs, accelerate automation, and create room for, you guessed it, AI. Meanwhile, the technological revolution promises productivity gains that could theoretically offset the economic drag from deglobalization. It's not merely a recession, it's a sparkling reconfiguration of the labor market in preparation for an AI-driven economy. The 6 to 12-month timeline mentioned by the Besant aligns well with projections for major AI advancements. Gosh, and I guess I was right this morning. But counter arguments are grounding. The CHIPS Act's cancellation may undercut American leadership in AI hardware, given that advanced semiconductors are critical to training and running large-scale AI models. So it is murky. The national security dimension of all this cannot be overlooked. As Buchanan observes, I do think there are profound economic, military, and intelligence capabilities that would be downstream of getting to AGI. And I do think it is fundamental for U.S. national security that we continue to lead in AI. So maybe that's the plan. So what does all this mean for your money? None of this is investment advice, just thoughts. We're entering what investors call a positioning moment, where the landscape is changing quickly enough that conventional wisdom needs reassessment. This is a very good point. This is a very good point. Everything is changing so quickly, and there are, I agree that just kind of standard analysis is not going to be enough for this. Stable funds could be a good option if you're worried about the volatility. Gold is hitting new highs, European equities outperforming American ones by 10%, and likely will continue to do so based on Germany's move. The flight to defensive sectors, etc. Markets are pricing in turbulence that often official projections won't acknowledge. There is value in diversification always, but especially now. Look for companies with pricing power, low dependence on imported components, and minimal exposure to retaliatory tariffs. They are positioned very differently than those caught in cross-border supply chains. This isn't just about whether stocks go up or down. It's about which segments of the economy are being structurally advantaged or disadvantaged by this policy direction. Pay attention to those companies. I don't know exactly how the next year will unfold. Perhaps it all works, and I certainly hope for the best. Economic systems are complex, and speculation is humbling. But I do know we're watching a high-stakes reconfiguration of economic relationships that will create both vulnerability and opportunity. How we position ourselves within that landscape, thoughtfully, deliberately, with clear eyes about what's actually happening rather than what we wish was happening, matters now more than ever. Media literacy. There's a worldview taking shape through these decisions that sees economic integration as weakness and disruption as strength. It's a vision that places nationalist economic ambition above the stability that most economic policy has aimed for in recent decades. The key takeaways. Tariffs cause short-term disruption and broader global mistrust. The administration appears to be pushing an intentional slowdown to engineer a reconfiguration. AI acts as an accelerant or partial justification for these moves. There's a mismatch between economic nationalism rhetoric and who benefits in practice. The human costs of this experiment will be distributed unevenly. When we talk about recessions in the abstract, we lose sight of what they actually mean. Families making impossible choices between medication and food, young graduates sending out hundreds of resumes without response, small businesses that represented decades of work closing their doors. The difference this time is artificial intelligence. Previous economic restructurings could rely on human adaptability across generations. This transformation is happening alongside technological changes that could fundamentally alter what human labor is worth. The timeline mentioned, 6 to 12 months before this becomes Trump's economy, aligns well with projections for major AI breakthroughs that Ezra Klein describes as an era in human history unlike any we have experienced before. Whether this administration's hard reset will position the U.S. as a global AI leader or weaken the country's competitiveness in the face of rising powers remains an open question. And economic systems do exist to serve human needs, not the other way around. When we start treating market turbulence as therapeutic, as a necessary cleansing rather than a failure of management, we've inverted this relationship entirely. We've put the system above the people it's meant to serve. The promise was an economic nationalism that would benefit American workers. The reality we're seeing unfold is policy that's likely to hurt those same workers while primarily benefiting those with enough money to weather the storm and capitalize on distressed assets afterward. It's why we're seeing this flight to safety, the gold rush, the repositioning of capital. Money is being moved by people who recognize the gap between rhetoric and outcomes. Much of it is wait and see. This maybe orchestrated slowdown may or may not pan out for the administration's goals, but the real-world stakes compounded by an AI revolution are monumental for workers, businesses, and global stability alike. A bell has been rung. Let's see. Disclaimer. This is not financial advice. I mean, it's not. That's a really good article, gal. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much. Let me find, where's that? Let me find the funny. Did you read this? Did you read this? Where is that? Where's the funny thing? Where's the funny thing? Where's the funny thing? Where's the funny thing? Do you know what time? Oh, I'll find out.
It's no secret that journalism.
Oh, wait. Let me make sure. Stop. Oh, good. You're seeing it. Okay. Okay, let's take a comedy break. We need a comedy break. Oh my God. I'm so glad Tintin's getting the attention he deserves. Motherfucker. Fucking hate him. Let's see. We've got Where Am I Going to Die? Where am I going to die? No. Oh, and then also, hold on. And then I said to myself, what does Peter Thiel think? What is Peter?
PayPal co.
Hey, what?
PayPal co.
Stop it, lady. I'm like, WWPTD. What would Peter Thiel do? And then I found it. I found what Peter Thiel would do. From a Fox Business interview 7 years ago. 7 years ago. When he did the first tariffs. Here we go.
Founder Peter Thiel sat down with Maria Bartiromo in an exclusive interview on Fox Business, giving President Trump high praise for the tax reform.
This is 7 years ago, so 2018.
Also weighing in on Bitcoin, the impact of regulations on Silicon Valley, and the tariffs. Let's watch.
The tax plan and the rollback in regulations have definitely impacted the economy in a positive way. It's boosted things. We're talking about 3% economic growth this year, which is great. But he's getting pushback on this tariff story and trade. Where are you on that?
Well, I think even something like the tariffs, which are always, you're always supposed to be anti-tariff because you're always supposed to be reflexively pro-free trade. But I think that needs to be rethought as well. It's obvious that there's something wrong with our trade relations when they are this asymmetric. We import $475 billion a year from China. We export $100 billion. That's an incredible trade deficit. And the economic theory is that that the country, the developing country, should have trade deficits because it has the faster growing economy. And so capital should be flowing from the U.S. to invest in China. And then China should have trade deficits that offsets the flows. And we instead live in a world where the money is sort of strangely flowing uphill. The U.S., the slower growing economy, the developed country, has the trade deficits, and the investments are flowing from poor people in China into the U.S. economy. It's completely backwards. And so that tells us some things very, very strange in terms of the trade dynamics in our world. And then when you look at it, there are all kinds of different issues where there's very differential treatment. There's intellectual property is not always respected. The U.S. has, and so to get to reasonable trade, it often is helpful to have people negotiating the trade treaties who are not too ideologically committed. Because if you're too ideological on free trade, you will say that it doesn't matter. Even if you negotiate a bad treaty, it's always better for everybody. And you actually want someone negotiating these treaties who's a little bit skeptical and who thinks we have to negotiate the IP protection, we have to negotiate the taxes on different companies, the investment provisions, all these things have to be seen as part of a package deal.
You're right, and this number is incredible, $476 billion in terms of a deficit from China. This is why the White House is now readying a new program to put in place new tariffs against China, new restrictions for China, because they are trying to transfer our technology to China. What is your experience with China?
Well, my book 0 to 1 did incredibly well in China, so I've spent quite a bit of time there. I think they are doing a terrific job developing their country, growing their economy, but it certainly is a much less open economy than the U.S. is. And so, if we were to say that China is doing a lot of things well, then certainly on the trade side, if we were more like China, you'd be way beyond anything Trump is proposing.
Yeah, good point.
And you have to always see these things as part of a negotiation, where the goal is not to have massive tariffs on both sides. The goal is to get fair trade and open up both markets equally.
Yeah, I thought it was incredible that China has participated in 10% of all venture deals in the last 5 years in the U.S. So they are obviously looking at the innovation in America, trying to bring it to China.
But that's always the other side of the trade deficit with the U.S. So the capital flows to the money flows to China, and then it has to get reinvested in the U.S. So even though it's a good thing that they're investing, the reason it's happening is because of these enormous trade deficits. And so there's far more Chinese investment in the U.S. than U.S. investment in China.
That makes sense. Okay. Let me ask you about regulatory environment overall, because these technology companies that we talk about every day are more powerful than they ever have been. And now, for the first time in a long time, you're hearing lawmakers take notice and say, well, maybe the certain AGs in America want to focus on certain technology companies and the power that they have. And in Europe, you're seeing the European Union leaders as well. Are you expecting we're going to see a heavier bite in terms of U.S. regulation on technology?
It's hard to say. I certainly think there is increased scrutiny. In the short to medium term, I'm much more worried about Western Europe, and certainly a part of the Western European dynamic is that these companies are all American. There have been very few successful technology companies built in Europe, and so it has sort of a vaguely protectionist, tariff-like feel in Europe. But it's also possible that we're going to be seeing somewhat more in the U.S. And I don't think the tech industry deserves to be massively regulated, but it is politically in a weak place. And one of the incredible mistakes that Silicon Valley has made is to become a one-party state. I think the banks did a lot of things wrong pre-2008, but they were very bipartisan, and so then the regulations that hit banking, were only moderate considering the severity of the 2008 crash. And there's a risk that Silicon Valley will be regulated more than the banks just because it's been politically so stupid.
Peter, can you talk to us about where the growth in the world is today? I mean, you have been able to really spot incredible trends throughout your career in terms of growth stories within technology. Where do you see the growth today?
Well, I'm always hesitant to give thematic answers. I always think it's specific companies that are doing, very unique, interesting, one-of-a-kind things. So I like to invest in companies that are doing something much better than anybody else, where if they weren't doing it, nobody would. And so it's a unique company that's developing a drug for an incurable disease, rather than sort of investing in a restaurant that's competing with 1,000 other restaurants in New York City. So it's always this stress on finding unique companies.
Anything strike you right now in terms of a unique company?
The themes that I'm most focused on over the last year have been the cryptocurrency themes, and so I do think it's very hard to know where that's going to go. It's striking how much this has been missed in both Silicon Valley and New York City. It's striking how uniformly disliked it is, and perhaps things like Bitcoin have still a very long way to go. If it succeeds in becoming this internet cryptocurrency store of value, Bitcoin's worth about a little bit under $200 billion today. All the gold in the world is worth $8 trillion. And it could become the next gold. And so I think that's still the thing that one should pay very careful attention to.
Because when we were in Saudi Arabia, you said you were somewhat skeptical of cryptocurrencies, but you thought that Bitcoin was misunderstood.
I'm skeptical of the blockchain. I like the currency store value story, and the best one of those is Bitcoin. And so yeah, I'd be long Bitcoin, a little bit more.
I wonder what he thinks of XRP right now.
Else. It is, of course, it has all these sort of 99, 2000 bubble-like aspects. But one thing that's very different from 99, 2000
it was 8,000. Bitcoin was 8,000 then. It's 83,000 now.
And so it is so out of favor.
It's true.
It is still so out of favor.
Final question here, Peter. Palantir obviously manages the infrastructure for data. Tell us about data and how you see data changing industries. I mean, several industries.
That's a broad question. I think that the critical issue is that is always it's not how to aggregate data and figure out all these interesting statistical things. That's sort of the big data story. I think the critical thing is always to find the kernel, the nugget, the really important thing in it. And so the sort of the anti-big data slogan we've come up with for Palantir is we need to make big data small, because we're all overwhelmed with data. And even though there's some statistical patterns one can find in it, the much more important thing is to turn the data into a few nuggets of really important things. So if you have a bank where you have millions of transactions, you want to find the few transactions that are fraudulent, and you have to sort of sift through this, find the needle in the haystack. That's in a way the problem with big data.
Peter, it's great to have you on the program. Thank you so much for joining us.
It is interesting. Wonder what that means. Oops. Oh no, I don't want to do it. No, stop. John, no, I didn't want to do that. I was talking about Peter Thiel. Talk about money laundering. So that was 7 years ago. Peter Thiel on tariffs, etc. That's a very good clip, actually. That to me is a very interesting clip, because it proves, well, it doesn't prove. It indicates to me that he was definitely thinking long and hard about how the administration and how important political power actually is to him. That's one thing I learned from it. And that he has, he agrees with this kind of burn it down and build it back up again. And I really, as I was thinking this morning about XAI and what the data is that Doggy has accumulated and what that can do in terms of machine learning, right, for XAI, it made very much sense to me that a businessman who runs an AI company would want the exclusive contract on the U.S. government to contract to make that function using his AI. So that made a lot of sense to me. And then when he talked about Palantir and big data and sifting through to find those fraudulent transactions, that made me think back to Doggy and the fact that what they are claiming to do is to look for the fraud, etc. It just all is very interesting to me, because one of the things I'm always wondering is, so who benefits from all of this? And why wouldn't anyone within the administration, if this was indeed a mistake, right? If this was indeed a mistake, why wouldn't someone from within that world, the donor class, etc., not step in, right? So clearly the donor class, Peter Thiel, Mark Andreessen, David Satt, whoever, right? Mark Zuckerberg, all those, big oil. That donor class is perfectly fine with what is happening. Now, I'm not saying they will continue to be fine. I don't understand, but I mean, this seems very much like part of what we've talked about, which is privatization of our way of life. And I know the jobs numbers came out today. I want to look at those a little bit just to understand, because they were up like $225,000 or 225,000 jobs were added in February or March or something. Nintendo just announced that they're delaying pre-orders for the Switch 2 due to Trump's tariffs, meaning they'll likely be raising the price from the $450 they announced on April 1st. Let's go to the behind the curtain. You gotta believe. Oh. We've got a lot to read and some things to watch today, so I hope you're in for the journey. It's going to be a little circular or, zigzag. So bear with me. President Dump is betting his this is an Axios piece shared by Gal. Dump is betting his presidency on the biggest on the biggest instant unilateral by choice, not necessity, economic mandate in U.S. history. Why it matters. He's gambling that generations of politicians, economists, CEOs, small business owners, academics, and even some of his own staffers are wrong, and he's right. I'm not even sure that it's him, so I take issue with that. And he's doing it with an issue that hits every American. For Trump to be right, you gotta believe, number one, that Trump's instincts are better than the past half century of his party's judgment, as well as the judgment of the economists who've studied the topic extensively, both historically and contemporaneously. Number two, that Senator Mitch McConnell, the former majority leader, reflecting what the vast majority of Senate Republicans say privately, was wrong when he tweeted, quote, "As I have always warned, tariffs are bad policy and trade wars with our partners hurt working people most. Tariffs drive up the cost of goods and services. They are a tax on everyday working Americans." Number three, that a minimum 10% increase in taxes on all imports and much higher taxes on goods that come from China, Vietnam, and other leading trade partners won't meaningfully increase prices for most Americans. Number four, that U.S. companies will be able to make the same products just as cheaply and right away. Number five, that allies and adversaries hit with big tariffs will just suck it up rather than retaliate, or that they'll move en masse to negotiate new trade deals favorable to the U.S. Number six, that American influence and power overseas won't diminish when those same allies start doing more business with each other or China. Number seven, that Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney was wrong when he said, quote, "Our old relationship of steadily deepening integration with the United States is over. The 80-year period when the United States embraced the mantle of global economic leadership is over. While this is a tragedy, it is also the new reality." Number eight, that the U.S. stock market and economic growth will rise again amid a global trade war of choice. That number nine, that recession forecasts by major financial institutions are wrong, and that the Dow, S&P, and NASDAQ, U.S. stocks off $3 trillion on Thursday, the biggest one-day drop since March 2020, are all wrong or wildly overreacting. The big picture. Trump feels wholly confident he'll be vindicated, if not instantly, then soon. Officials tell us he's never felt more confident and happy than in pushing maximal tariffs, a lifelong aspiration. I don't even know. Oh, really? I haven't used a switch. Bobo has an old switch, but yeah, I don't even know if they care that much. I don't even know if he cares that much. I think he's trying to avoid prison. And based on the fact that Peter Thiel was talking about these very, very much protectionist and technology-driven solutions 7 years ago, I have a feeling this is not Trump's idea. Okay, he's being told what to say. He's being fed the lines by whomever, whether it be Scavino, Stephen Miller, whoever's feeding him the digested version of what the donor class wants, and I'll just say donors. He has been on it since the 70s. I'm just saying this is not his idea. I refuse to believe that. I absolutely refuse to believe that. I cannot. Let me see. Oh, this is from March 4th, 2025. This was a piece that oh, this is great. I kind of want to read this too. Let me actually break us with a little bit of a video though. Hold on just a second. Let me do that. Let me get us a video. Because I have a few clips that I wanted to make sure that we played too. No, 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 no. All right. Oh. No, that's not what I want. Where was that one piece? Oh. Wait, what was I asking? What was I gonna say? Healing to average. Yeah, no, it's all about the greed. It's all about the greed. Oh no. Okay. This is what I wanted to hold
Mr.
on.
Secretary,
Don't
nice
say
to
anything. Oh shit. Fucking
Hello, beauty.
okay, I understand.
Mr. Secretary.
I love you very much, but I'm not watching you right now. All right. Unfortunately, I didn't get to see this, so you have to watch it with me. I didn't get to see his thing. This is unfortunately 13 minutes of Howard Nutlicker. So if you have to go like make another pot of coffee, or if you have to run a 10-minute errand, you might want to start now. If you don't want to watch Howard Nutlicker try to defend this. Here.
Nice to have you on again. Are these economic experts I just cited wrong in your view about a recession?
I think they're not counting the factories that are going to be built. President Trump yesterday announced $5 trillion in domestic commitments to build factories in America, right? Remember, domestic production, GDP. People forget if you buy a Toyota that's made in Japan, that's not domestic production. Domestic production is factories built here.
Are they even made in Japan?
$5 trillion committed.
I don't even think they're
to be
made in
building
Japan.
Factories in America, and that's going to drive growth. If you
Bye,
divide
Neil.
that by our $30 trillion economy, that's a whole lot of growth, and you're going to get that starting in the fourth quarter, and that's going to drive this U.S. economy because it's American workers who are going to build those
That's
factories.
like what,
So let's dive a
September?
little bit deeper into that because, you know, in the past when Trump put in tariffs, there was Foxconn, right? He announced that investment. That didn't come to fruition. And what you are laying out, and certainly it would be good if there's more investment, but what you're laying out is this sort of manufacturing renaissance. But as you well know, for businesses, it's not so simple, right? They have to find the workers. Labor is more expensive here. There's concern that trade policies could change in the next few years. And then why invest all this money now if it's just going to change down the road? What do you say to those companies?
Finally changing U.S. policy to protect American workers is what Donald Trump is all about. So what you're going to see is
That's not an
factories going to
answer,
be
sir.
built here. Why should U.S. policy basically suggest that you can find the cheapest labor in the world with the worst labor conditions in the whole wide world, the worst pollution, right? No environmental rules at all. Let's go build there because it's really cheap and we'll sell it to the great American economy.
No
How about we build it
environmental
here?
rules at all.
We use robotics here. It's all
Okay,
about.
wait.
So what you're going
I really want to take this slow, okay? Because let me tell you one thing about these anus mouth white men. The one thing they do in these interviews, especially this motherfucker, is they just like they just blurt out all the stuff. They don't even think about what they're saying. And so to me, it is helpful input for understanding what happens next. So I want to listen really carefully to what Nutlicker is saying.
to see is factories going to be built here. Why should U.S. policy basically suggest that you can find the cheapest labor in the world with the worst labor conditions in the whole wide world, the worst pollution, right? No environmental rules at all. Let's go build there because it's really cheap and we'll sell it to the great American economy. How about we build it here? We use robotics here. It's cheaper than cheap labor overseas. You're going to see.
Ah. I can't do that, Hal. Oh, no, he's Hal. I can't do that. What's his name? I can't even remember now. Wow. Oh, how's that work? Oh, is this and just so you know, one need only look to another economic advisor of the Trump administration, Grimes, who has done a few things saying that, oh, it's going to be so great in the future because all the robots are going to work for us and AI is going to handle everything and we're just going to be able to vibe. Which, great. If that's true, fantastic. Bring it on. But I don't think that's actually how it works. Grimes. So, forgive me, Grimes. Anus mouth. Anyway, so this is, again, I personally, my game for surviving this apocalypse, the game inside my head is, what's going to happen next? What's going to happen next? I don't know and I can't tell, but what's going to happen next? There's nothing I can do about it. What's going to happen next? Only 2 models made in Japan for sale here. RAV4, number 1 selling vehicle in USA. Some made in Canada, some made in Kentucky. Well, there you go.
See something completely different. You're going to see the greatest economy in the world. The Renaissance will be the greatest factories in the world.
Factories?
High tech people. What are the jobs Americans are going to have? We are going to have mechanics who fix robotics. We're going to have engineers and electricians who work on these great high-tech factories. These are high-tech jobs. All you need is a high school education and training, and they're going to have great jobs, great paying.
How many
and this
of them?
is who Donald Trump is going to build for.
And I understand this is your selling point, but companies right now, I mean, they're just not buying it. They don't want to risk putting all this money into doing what you
that's
said,
a really good point. I
especially when
didn't think
you're looking
about
at a
that.
future of AI and automation, doing a lot of the things you just lay out. How does this concept of bringing back this manufacturing renaissance in the U.S., which might be a noble endeavor for sure, square with the...
How does bringing it back and envisioning a world where it's mostly AI driven, which means trying to business fit that change to their workforce? Businesses, they may have been thinking about it, but I can guarantee you probably not all of them.
the future of AI and really looking at that.
No, that's the whole point. So you imagine what you're talking about is all these companies who have their manufacturing in the cheapest labor market in the world and the least environmental rules in the world.
Okay.
And they're being celebrated. And the time is to have those great companies who are great designers of products for America, bring it back to America. Use robotics, use factories in America, and they're all committed. That's what the $5 trillion is. Apple committing. Remember, Apple last time, they got an exemption and they didn't build. Right? This time, there are no exemptions. They're going to build in America. These high-tech factories are going to come to America. Remember, with NAFTA, we lost 90,000 factories. It's time for those factories to come home.
Well, I think there was a couple of factors. It wasn't just NAFTA, right?
And it's
Wasn't there
time
a
for
few
Donald Trump to
factors
take
involved
care
in
of them.
that?
Finally, someone is going to take care of the American workers, and his name is Donald Trump.
Right, and certainly, we're going to be tracking this, and I'm sure the administration will, to make sure that they actually follow through on what they're saying they're going to do. But in the interim, this takes long. Unraveling globalization takes a long time. This isn't just an overnight fix. And in the interim, prices will go up. You even hear from the president himself, there will be short-term pain. We're going to see in the next few days likely prices going up at the grocery store. What do you say to those Americans who put Donald Trump in office to lower prices, not raise them?
So energy prices down, interest rates down.
Okay, first of all, crude oil prices are down, which in the traditional, and we read about this last week, I think, or in prior shows, that the correlation of pricing for gasoline to crude oil is that if crude oil is low, the country's slow production so that the price of gas is high. You morons. That's the correlation between crude oil prices and fucking gas prices. You fucking idiots. Shoot. Number one. Number two, the interest rates have not come down. Jerome Powell, the head of the Federal Reserve, did not lower. Okay. Sorry about that. Mic went out. It'll probably come back at some point, but I'll just have to use this mic. Jerome Powell did not lower interest rates. In fact, he said he would not be lowering interest rates. He's trying to, oh, now I'm back. Okay, great. All right. Hold on. I love my life. Okay, sorry. Back to this one. Doesn't want to play. Jerome Powell did not lower interest rates and said he would not be lowering interest rates. There was a central bank in Europe. I want to say it was in Switzerland. I don't know where, but they did slightly lower their rate. Could he be pressured to lower rates? Of course he can, but he's really not in the mood. So I don't know what's going to happen between him and Dump per se. But that I think is something. So those are two very wrong statements. What he just said. So, all right, I'm going to mute myself and fix this, and then I'll be right back. And you're going to listen to more of this bullshit.
Right, your mortgage costs down, right? These things are energy. The price at the gas pump lower, oil down 6-7%. Why aren't you talking about the fact that oil and the gas pump is going to come smashing down? No tax on tips, no tax on overtime,
right,
no tax on Social
Security. That's not even in effect yet.
But these
no tax
are
on tips.
all
But
coming
I just want to drill down on
these
prices.
These are all coming now.
Because as you well know, Secretary, a lot of Americans put Donald Trump in office because they were unhappy with prices at the grocery store, right? They didn't feel like Biden did enough. They put Trump in office to fix that. In a few days, we're about to see prices go up at the grocery store. What do you say to those Americans?
I don't think that's going to happen.
You don't
the reason
think,
it's going to happen,
it won't happen?
Watch. No one can guarantee anything, but that's very nice. Thank you. I wish I could guarantee whatever you'd like. But the fact is, wait, let's take one moment. Wait. You asked me a question. Let's go through it, okay? Our farmers are blocked from selling almost anywhere. We can't, 1.4 billion people in India, and we can't sell them corn. Europe won't let us sell beef. Australia won't let us sell beef. Why?
Of hormonal chemicals.
Yeah, no, that's not why. It's because they want to just protect. I know they want to say, oh, what, the seeds are different, right? Other people in the world are using seeds that insects. Come on, this is nonsense. This is all nonsense. What happens is they block our markets. When we open those markets, our volumes grow. Our farmers will thrive, and the price of groceries will come down. Let Donald Trump run the global economy. He knows what he's doing. He's been talking about it for 35 years. You got to trust Donald Trump in the White House. That's why they put him there. Let him fix it.
I understand.
It's broken. Let him fix it. Our $36 trillion deficit, right, is going to ruin our children's lives and our grandchildren's lives. Let Donald Trump fix the American economy.
But just to follow up with you, when the first time he did tariffs, we did see prices rise on products that were tariffed. That's according to Goldman Sachs compared to non-tariff products.
We had the lowest inflation ever.
The manufacturing sector went into a mild recession in the fall of 2019. What gives you so much certainty? And by the way, this is more aggressive and the economy is in a different place with inflation and consumer sentiment. What gives you so much certainty that this is going to work and that this isn't going to hurt the everyday American?
The largest tariff and trade barrier country in the world is China. And they don't have inflation. So these things don't occur the way people suggest they do. This is a reordering of global
They also don't have
trade
any human
for the
rights or
benefit
any of that
America.
stuff.
We
So
have
come on
been-
now.
These people have all been living in our house. They've been driving our car. They come by and visit, open our fridge, and eat our food whenever they want. They've taken advantage of us. Today was the day of the beginning of saying, I'm sorry, you can't just live for free off of us. You have to pay. And what's going to happen is the United States of America will get stronger. Our economy will grow much faster than the rest of the world.
All right,
right? If you were
hold on
going
one
to
second. We
say
have to get
where
a
we're
break in.
going,
You're not going anywhere because we're going to continue
where we're
this
going is
conversation.
our markets are going to be up. And I understand that it's tough for the global markets, but our market, you should be betting on Donald Trump and the United States market. We are going to do much better.
Okay.
I don't think there's any chance that President Trump's going to back off his tariffs. This is the reordering of global trade, right? That's what's going to happen. But the world should stop exploiting the United States of America. Let our farmers sell their products. Let our ranchers sell their products. They won't take lobster in Europe or the UK. I mean, why won't they take American lobster?
Now. They do. They didn't for a while, but now they do.
They don't, because Downing Street said they're going to start, if they change their trade policy, they're going to start having lobster dinners in Downing Street.
All right.
So
Well,
that's what they told us.
Howard.
So the point is,
I'm serious.
let's let American workers succeed and prosper. Let's build factories in America. Let's let us export to the world.
Okay.
You can't really fight with the United States. We are the customer of the world.
Let me just follow up with you. And by the way, in August 2020, the EU did agree to eliminate tariffs on fresh and frozen American lobsters. Just quick fact check there. But hold on. No.
It's not tariffs. It's non-tariff trade barriers.
I understand what you're
Stop
saying.
it, Howard.
Remember,
You
they
lost.
Korea wouldn't let French fries come in.
Secretary, I understand. Let me just follow up because I want to just be very clear here because allies and adversaries alike are looking at everything you're saying right now about whether there's room to negotiate on these tariffs before they announce what they're going to do. What I hear from you is that there isn't room for negotiation. Is that right? You said that the president won't back off.
What I said very clearly, the president is not going to back off.
So he's not going to back off of what he announced yesterday.
He is not going to back off. He is not backing off.
Nothing could change that.
But countries can fix their tariffs, their non-tariff trade barriers, which are much rougher. That's right. The story I was trying to tell you is that when we took cars from Korea in 2012, when I grew up, there was no Korean cars in America. When we took cars from Korea, the deal was we could sell ag to Korea. That was the deal. They wouldn't let McDonald's bring in French fries because they couldn't prove the origin of the French fry. That is not a tariff. That is called a non-tariff trade barrier. They take their taxes and they subsidize their steel industry, or they subsidize their...
Okay, I'm going to stop him here because one of the things that the Mar-a-Lago Accord, one of the principles within that document, I guess, or approach, if you will, is addressing the non-trade related barriers with countries. I can't remember exactly how they worded it. It's probably in one of the articles I'll read. Hi, Oren. How are you, darling? So one of the things around this Mar-a-Lago Accord construction is that you kind of even the playing field, if you will, or no, that's not it. You create an advantage for the U.S. if you hold over the head of other countries that part of this agreement that they would strike with countries for trade relations would include security by the United States. And so this is also basically putting some countries for sure over a barrel, saying you'll give us, you'll take our lobster, right? So I can very well imagine that these grievances that this nut licker has, that they'll try to solve some of these grievances within the Mar-a-Lago Accord construct and use the security that the U.S. can provide for other countries as part of this trade negotiation. And furthermore, hear me out, I can further imagine a world where these trade agreements then I I want to make sure I finish this thought. Those trade agreements also, oh, fucking hell. Come on, girl. Don't lose it. Oh my God, my brain's totally like pushing it out of my head. Oh wait, what was he saying? Oh, that these trade agreements also give, kind of unfettered access to natural resources within the countries. Because in order to create the energy that we need to create for all of this, robotic revolution, the iRobot phase of human evolution, and decided, and are like, okay, well, in the robot revolution, we need a lot of power, and that means we need a lot of like natural resources and minerals and all that shit, and we need access to waterways like the Arctic waterways as well as the Panama Canal. Wow, I can really see now how all those things line up to be really beneficial to the United States. I don't think they really care about unemployment at the point, if they're able to pull this off. I don't think they really care about unemployment here. I mean, do you think? I don't know if that's in their calculus per se, or if it factors. At least 26 countries have partial or full bans on GMOs, with another 60 having significant restrictions. Thanks, Google. Did you not look at the risk board? Uh-oh. What's the risk board? What is that? Anyway, here we go. Let's listen to the rest of this dipshit.
Energy, or they subsidize, or they give the tax back to their car manufacturer. Right. This stuff has got to stop. America's got to stop being exploited, and you're going to see America prosper. And
that's not the point.
And only then will Donald Trump make a deal with each country when they've really, really changed their ways. Then
it sounds like
that's what I'm talking about. When those countries really, really change their ways. Really. Really, really, really. No, I didn't do this in the risk board. Oh, darn it. The dog's barking. Okay, I'm going to put on another video after this. Oh, shoot. I should, no.
He might back off down the road, but
that's
not right now.
That's not back off. And that's not back off. That is let the deal maker make his deals when and only if these countries can change everything about themselves, which I doubt they will. Because
so he is willing to negotiate then? So he is willing to negotiate with these countries right now? Or if they decide to
talking, no talking. Doing. These countries have abused us and exploited us, as he said yesterday. They need to change their ways.
Let me follow up with you.
Let's see them change their ways. It's going to be a long time. Let's see what they do. Not talking. Okay. Talking is nonsense.
Let me follow up, because Germany's economic minister says President Trump will, quote, buckle under pressure if Europe hits back. Given the president's history of making threats and then backing off, why should foreign leaders think he'll stand firm this time?
Donald Trump is going to stand firm because he is reordering global trade. Make no mistake about it, America has been exploited, and he is done allowing America to be exploited. And no amount of the exploiters trying to swing harder at us after they've exploited us for all these years is going to change Donald Trump's view. What they can do is they can stop exploiting us. How about try that? And the arrogance of saying, I've taken advantage of you for decades, and not only saying, I understand that you're fixing it, I'm disappointed that the gig is up and I can't take advantage of you anymore, right? And I'm disappointed. Instead, if you're angry and you fight back to the greatest customer in the world, you're going to lose. We are the sumo wrestler of this world. We are the biggest economy.
I don't think he knows how this works. I really don't think Howard Nuttlicker
very quickly,
understands how this
weakening.
works.
Is that part of the strategy here? As you know, some economists say that is what the administration is trying to do here, weaken the dollar.
Donald Trump called out currency manipulation. Technically, right, you would think the dollar would rally on this kind of thing. But why is it falling? Because Donald Trump said, stop manipulating your currency.
Are you happy?
Well, if the world stops manipulating the currency, right, then the dollar gets cheaper. Our ability to export is better. It's easier. Our people.
So this is part of the strategy.
Well, stop manipulating, right? The dollar was just bolstered up by these economies because they were faking it. It's got to stop. We need to be treated fairly. Thank God we've got Donald Trump in the White House. He's finally going to treat America fairly. He's going to finally treat American workers fairly. This is the biggest change you're ever going to see because you have the right guy in the White House doing the right things, protecting American workers.
So it is true. It's a strategy to weaken the dollar.
It is not a strategy to weaken the dollar.
But it's part of the plan. It's part of the plan.
It is not a plan. We don't have a plan about the dollar. We have a plan about American workers. We have a plan about American factories. And these are all outcomes of stop you manipulating our currency. Stop it.
Okay.
And if that means the dollar goes back to where it should be because you've stopped manipulating it, it makes sense to me.
Oh, if the dollar goes back to where it's supposed to be. Wow. Oh. What do you see? He did run Cantor Fitzgerald. Yes, that's the same Howard Nutlicker who ran Cantor Fitzgerald. And you know what was interesting about Dump's social media company, Truth Social or whatever? You know what was like the whole network? Remember that way back? Oh, good. I'll go to Jerome Powell. You know what's interesting about that? Oh, I'm losing my mind.
And consumers in our community.
Oh, come on.
The last few weeks.
AP.
Mostly before this week's news. One business owner told me, if there's a hint of a recession, we're cooked. And he asked me to share that with you. What's your response?
So I guess I would say, let's start with the fact that the incoming data right through this morning's employment report, which admittedly is from roughly a month ago, the week of March 12, they took the data in. It still shows a solid economy. Unemployment's still low. I understand.
Sorry.
Morning's employment report, which admittedly is from roughly a month ago, the week of March 12, they took the data in. It still shows a solid economy. Unemployment's still low. I understand the uncertainty that's weighing on people. You ask about a recession. We don't make a probability forecast of how likely it is for there to be a recession, but many outside forecasters do, and many of them have raised the likelihood, albeit from very low levels. It's not something that anybody now is forecasting, or some people are starting to. So there's not much more I can say about that. I realize that the uncertainty is high, and what we've learned is that the tariffs are higher than anticipated, higher than almost all forecasters predicted. We still don't know where that comes to rest, though, and we're just going to have to see that through.
At a congressional hearing last year, one of the U.S. representatives said that you were pretty boring, and you thanked him and said that you considered that a very high compliment. And in fact, I feel like it's one of the roles of the Federal Reserve, especially since the housing crisis, to be kind of a ballast, especially in the face of the volatility of the markets and the dramatics that we can experience with the economy. Very steady, no surprises, very reliable. In a moment like this, which also has a lot of drama and unpredictability, but it is not necessarily from an economic crisis. It's by design, it's political. How do you see your role in this moment?
So I think all of the values that you touched on are, in fact, the values that we try to live by. We're driven by, analysis and careful thought and discussion and debate, and the merits of things. We try to stay as far as we can from the political process. We don't look at political cycles or things like that. And I think people expect that from us. They expect us to tell the truth, and that's what we're going to do. But at the same time, we don't want to be part of the broader political discussion about the wisdom of policies that are not assigned to us. We're not responsible for trade policy, immigration policy, fiscal policy. So we don't comment on those. Decisions are made by others, and what we do is we use our tools to try to achieve the goals that Congress assigned us, which is maximum employment and price stability. So I like to think that over time we're a source of calm, rational analysis and also of stability. That's really what the business that we're in is, providing financial and macroeconomic stability to the public. That's really our purpose.
So how can businesses and individuals and the Fed make plans for the future when so much is being dictated by the actions of a single person? And do you see yourself as the consoler-in-chief on economic matters?
No, I think, take a step back. What's happening is, as I mentioned, the new administration is making significant policy changes in trade, immigration, fiscal policy, and regulation. And you're still just a couple of months into the administration, and that process will take place. And at a certain point, the new policies will be on the table. They will be having the effects they're going to have on the economy, and uncertainty will decline. Right now, there's a lot of uncertainty about where all that's going to sort out, the forms it will take, and what the economic effects will be. If you fast forward a year from now, the uncertainty should be much lower. The actual effects of the policies should then be pretty manifest and clear. So I think I understand why it just is highly uncertain, both what the policies will turn out to be, exactly what they'll turn out to be, and also what their effects will be in the near term. We just have to go through that process, and it is just kind of a manifestation of our election cycle and a new administration coming in with new policies.
I mean, given all of the change happening and the fact that we are in a period where things have not settled in yet, and that the Federal Reserve and you as chair are very projection, data-driven, policy-driven, how do you handle a moment like now? I mean, can you tweak your plans and projections? Do you just do you have to reset them?
So, what we've had since in the last few months is, from the staff, has been a placeholder. Rather, they wouldn't call it a forecast because it's so uncertain. They call it a placeholder. And that's kind of how we've been thinking about it. So it's a good time to take a step back and let things clarify. That's why it's just too soon to say what the appropriate monetary policy response will be to these new policies. It is just too soon to say. We can't say with any confidence today. So that's what we're doing. We've taken a step back, and we're watching to see what the policies turn out to be and the ways in which they will affect the economy, and then we'll be able to act. Fortunately, our policy stance is in a good place for us to do that. We're probably moderately restrictive, let's say, so it's not really tight policy, but which is appropriate since inflation is a bit above target. So we think we're well positioned to address whatever may come. And in the meantime, I'd say we're waiting for greater clarity before we consider adjustments.
Business owners in Wisconsin have told me that they can't make their plans. They want to expand. They want to build a new facility. They want to hire or do whatever the future calls for. They say, we're trying to look around the corner. We're not even sure where the corner is, and we're not even sure what's around the corner. Sounds like they're in the same position as you are a little bit.
No, we hear the same thing. Of course, we have an incredible network of contacts with businesses and also universities, nonprofits, all different sectors, through the reserve banks and also through the Board of Governors. And that's what we hear. But again, it's a process. We're going through it, and I think we will know when we know what the policies are exactly and what their implications will be for the economy. That will all become clear, and I think that'll be a time when people can make decisions. In the meantime, though, I get it. We're hearing that a lot from people, and we are kind of in the same place, which is waiting for clarity about what our policy path should be.
It might be months away.
We'll have to see.
Yeah.
As you're talking about placeholders right now and having something in the place when there's so much that we don't know, it does occur to me that this is not the first economic shock that you have steered the markets and the economy through. Obviously, there was COVID almost exactly 5 years ago. It seems similar in certain ways with a lot of uncertainty, a lot of shock, also potential disruptions to prices and to supply, which is very much in the Federal Reserve's wheelhouse. I mean, from where you sit, can Liberation Day be compared to kind of the economic effects of COVID? Are they totally different, somewhat related?
I think each situation is different. There was COVID. There was also then, in the response to COVID, then there was high inflation, and then there was soft landing, and then there was, and now we have new administration and changes in policies, and every situation, you know, it kind of rhymes, but it's not exactly the same thing. And so in this situation, what we face is what I mentioned in my remarks, is you actually have risks for higher unemployment and higher inflation, and that's difficult for a central bank because our tools, which consist of interest rates, you know, either slow down or speed up the economy over time. And, you know, higher unemployment would call for speeding up the economy, and higher inflation would call for slowing it down. So you can be in a situation, if we find ourselves in that situation, we look at how far each of the two variables is from its goal, and we ask ourselves, how long would it take to get back? And we weigh those things and make a decision about what to do. But there's no question that's a different situation, very difficult situation. When we faced high inflation, it was painful for the country, painful for the people that we serve, but we knew what policy needed to be. We knew we needed to raise rates quite a bit. During the pandemic, we knew what we needed to do. It was very clear the direction that we needed to take with force, and we did.
It's almost a situation potentially where the dual mandate is at odds with itself.
The two goals are, as we say, in tension, or they may be. I'd say that's not what we're seeing right now, but it's the effects at the margin right now would be for higher inflation and perhaps higher unemployment, but that's a marginal effect. I would say you're not in a situation like we were in the 1970s where the two goals were really both pulling in opposite directions and required. It's just very hard for a central bank to be the answer to a situation like that. But that's not the situation we're really in today.
One of the questions from the audience that we had is, if unemployment takes off and inflation takes off, which lever do you go for? Which lever do you, what do you do?
So we actually have we have a document called our consensus statement, or the longer version is Statement on Longer Run Goals and Monetary Policy Strategy. And the 6th paragraph of that actually contemplates when the two goals are in tension. And what it says is, think about how far each variable is from its goal, and think about how long it would take for each to get back. So in a way, it's an equation. You're comparing two quantities, which each have two variables.
In a way, it's triage.
And then you say, you look at that and you think, what do we need to do? And typically this doesn't happen very often, but if one of them is further away, then you would focus on that one. In the case of high inflation, they actually both pointed in the same direction. The labor market was overheated, and inflation was very high. So both of those called for tight monetary policy. This could be different, but again, we're not actually facing that today.
I feel like there's another tension inherent in your job, which is that you're looking at the macro economy, at the global economy really, and the U.S. places in it, but also the data you're looking at is very profoundly human, as Jim has been pointing out. Jobs, I think, and prices are probably the two most human pieces of data, and certainly in our day-to-day experience, probably the things that loom the largest. How do you reconcile those two things when you're looking at the data, like both the global markets and knowing that the data represents a lot of lives and jobs and egg prices and things like that?
So I think at the Fed, we always keep a focus on the people that we serve, and we know and are very conscious daily that the things that we do have a real effect on people's lives. We know that, and it really does focus the mind. And I think if you talk to people at the Fed, there's a very strong commitment to serving the public as well as we possibly can. Economic events are just very, very unpredictable at times, and there are shocks that you can't see coming. But nonetheless, our job is to, whatever happens, use our tools to bring the economy back to stability, back to price stability, back to maximum employment. And that's what we do. But you're right. We try to keep
Do you think
everybody
he
in the room
knows
with us when
what they're up
thinking
to?
about what to do.
Do you think Jerome Powell engages in that type of conjecture?
Harley Davidson, which is based in Milwaukee, moved some production to Thailand. Now the company might be whipsawed again by the new tariffs. It could be really devastating for sales, for employment, for the future of that company. But a lot of companies are in that same position. And what do you say to companies like Harley Davidson and their workers?
So it just isn't, I really want to stick to our knitting. I mean, we have this great thing called our independence of monetary policy. And that's critical for us to be able to do our job. But for us to keep that independence, we need to not succumb to the temptation to want to be a player on issues that are not assigned to us.
But we just
And
need your
trade policy is one of those.
smartness.
There are many,
That's
many
what we
issues that
need.
people love to try to pull us in on.
I want you to be smart and tell us what you
We just need to stick to our
think.
knitting, not get pulled into those things. And so trade policy is a classic one. Energy policy is another.
You're like the
Climate
smartest
change,
person that
many-
has to know
immigration
what's
is not
happening.
real. Although all of those
Why
things
don't
have
you tell
economic
us what you
implications, and
think?
it's argued that way. But if we treated those as our job,
Tell
the
us what
case for our
you
independence would
think.
disappear. So I really can't comment on. I mean, we hear the same stories like that.
Yeah,
but
it is
honestly,
well,
the policymakers who are charged.
Yeah,
with
part of the
that,
Mar-a-Lago
they're probably
Accord
hearing the
is
same
like
stories
these
too, and they're
long-term
reaching a
treasury
judgment
debts.
about
I don't
what's
know
in
what
the
that
best
does, though. I
interest
don't
of the
understand the
country in
bond
long
market as well
run.
as
That's what
I
they
should.
are doing, I guess, and that's so it's not for us to comment on that.
What happens inside the
Nice
Fed
try.
at a moment like right now when there's so much change?
No
and
one's that
quite
only.
a bit of uncertainty.
No one
when you're
wants that.
watching things unfold, what does that look like practically speaking? What are people doing inside the building?
So I'm
No, we
very
do not
proud to
want him
work with the people I work with. I can tell you that.
No, he's
in
very
times
good.
like this,
He's very
or
good.
times like the pandemic,
I
where
appreciate
the
his
global financial
stoicism.
markets are shutting down, the global economy
That's what you
is shutting
want.
down. People
It's like
step
that tough
forward and
love,
say,
you know.
"We've got this."
When someone
These are-
tells
these
you
are
what they
career
really
people
think of you
who were here for the
and how
global
little
financial
that might
crisis.
actually
They've got
be, they're at least telling you the
25
truth.
35 years of experience
And
with
that's actually pretty
crises,
valuable.
and they
So,
step
in my
forward, and
mind, anyway.
It's just incredible.
Even though it's
what
hard,
they can do and how good
it doesn't
they are.
make it
It's a
any
great
easier,
honor to work
but
with them. So right now
it
isn't that
is-
situation.
it is
This
for the
the
best.
situation we have. So our trade people and our inflation people and our macroeconomists are all working hard to kind of digest the news of this week and try to filter that into the forecast that they'll make. And policymakers are doing very much the same thing, and we're reading everything we can about what's happening and lots of outside analysis too. We don't have an FOMC meeting until May 6 and 7, so that's really a process that lasts several weeks, and we're not quite at that stage yet. But we're kind of thinking ahead to that.
Okay, well, there's my
and
question
working through
answered. He
all of
is
that.
definitely
I will
looking
say,
at
though,
all the
it
information.
feels like we don't.
Obviously, I mean, I knew he would, but you know what I mean. Do you know
what
what I mean?
Yes, it feels like we don't. No, I mean, it's like I said, you have inflation is going to be moving up and growth is going to be slowing, but it isn't really. To me, it's not clear at this time what the appropriate path for monetary policy will be, and we're going to need to wait and see how this plays out before we can start to make those adjustments.
Question from the audience. One of our Cebu members is, are you in contact with other central bankers in other countries at a time like this?
Yes, pretty frequently.
No. No, I can't stand them.
Absolutely, I am, and the same was true during the other crises I've been through. Not only that, though, we do meet very regularly. The IMF World Bank meetings here in Washington twice a year. We go to Basel multiple times a year to meet. That's all central bankers.
Hell yeah.
And there are also G20 meetings, G7 meetings where the central bankers are there. So we're kind of regularly meeting and talking. And when we're not doing that, we're also texting each other.
Is there a group chat?
Uh-oh.
I'm not at liberty to say.
That's a good one.
No, there's not.
And have you talked to those central bankers this week?
Recently, yeah, I didn't want to get too specific about this, but yes, I have.
What's their sentiment? Can you characterize that?
I'd rather, again, I don't comment on what my international colleagues say, or it's not appropriate. But we're talking about events. We're talking about the implications for the economy. We're discussing what we're hearing from markets and from business people and for from the elected governments too. It's all the things you would expect us to be talking about on a regular basis. It's one of the best things about this role is that the central banks have a lot. We're all non-political, so we think about things in quite similar ways, and they're real bonds. We're not lobbying each other ever on policy. It's just never. That's just not a thing, because we do our policy here, they do their policy there, but we develop really really good relationships and bonds with them. And it's one of the real pleasures and benefits being able to talk about this, just not only with the great people at the Fed, but also with with the leaders around the world.
I mean, it's interesting because it is a job of enormous responsibility and power, but it's also a job. Is it? I mean, how would you characterize the job of Fed chair? Like, how is it as a job?
Honestly,
what's a
that's
typical
what it
day
is.
like?
I really feel just like another person doing that job.
Really?
Yeah.
You just like.
That's how it is. I'm doing a job. I have a job to do. I actually really like the job. I like it a lot. I enjoy it. It can be stressful at times. Nonetheless, incredibly interesting, great people to work with, really important. You know, what more could you want? But that's what it is. And, you know, again, I'm blessed by working with great colleagues who are really committed to getting it right. I mean, fully appreciate how important it is that we get it right. And do everything we possibly can to bring the best thinking, the best analysis, and debate things, you know, over and over until we feel like we're in the right place. At the same time, there is no certainty in this. You can be wrong because the economy can zig when you thought it was going to zag.
So your term as Fed chair ends about a year from now. What do you think about your job security?
I fully intend to serve all of my term.
Excellent. I mean, as we're getting close to wrapping
my
up, I did want to ask something a little bit out of the box. I think because you do have a position of such great responsibility, people are very curious about you.
Yeah, Peter Parker,
and
get
I think
ready.
People tend to read into everything a Fed chair does, small gestures, word choice. I know it's part of our jobs in this room to pore over every word you choose. I did want to ask about one thing that I've wondered about for years, which is your tie. You always seem to wear a purple tie, and every time I think I've seen you, you've worn a purple tie, and I'm wondering if there's significance to that?
Well, at the beginning, the only significance was that I like purple ties.
Okay.
But I will say, you know, so then the next press conference, I reach for a blue tie or a red tie, and I go, maybe not, you know. And so I wind up wearing purple ties. And then it becomes a thing, and now I definitely wear purple ties all the time.
Okay.
But I felt like, you know, it just felt a little awkward to be wearing one that was identified. We are strictly non-political. I can't stress that enough. We are not, it's not that we're bipartisan. We are non-political. We don't do that. And so purple is a good color for that. That's all. Plus, I like purple ties.
Sorry, I didn't give you a purple guitar pick. I have one other Milwaukee question that I overlooked here, but in Milwaukee and other parts of the country, the housing market is out of whack. In our market alone, in southeastern Wisconsin, there's 5,000, the market's out of whack by like 5,000 houses that need to be on the market for it to have equilibrium. And a report this week said tariffs could tack on some $6,000 to the cost of building a new home. How long are people going to sit on their cheap mortgages from COVID? Thank you very much. And before they move on, before the market frees up?
So you have several things there. The first is we just haven't built enough housing, and we haven't kept up with the demand for housing. So there's an underlying shortage. Before the pandemic, you know, there was a real housing shortage. And by the way, that's happening in many comparable democracies around the world. The second thing is, you know, lock-in, as you say. There were very, very low mortgage rates during COVID, and people are kind of locked in. It would be very expensive to move, and that'll of course wear off over time. You also mentioned, you know, the costs of materials that might be imported, you know, lumber and nails and things like that. And yeah, and also labor. A lot of labor from in the home building business has been traditionally immigrant labor. So yeah, the sort of new build market, it may face some cost pressures as well. That may very well be the case. That's what we're hearing from home builders, for example, both on the labor side and on the materials side. But even once these short-term things happen, we're still going to have not enough houses, and so it's.
I just want to stop for a moment because one of the things I've been thinking about, and I haven't found a lot of good information in my minor research on this issue, but one of the things I've been thinking about is what happens to the seasonal workforce that would come in at different points in the season and execute on, you know, farm workers. So what happened to the migrant farm worker workforce? Are they prevented completely from coming in? I know there are seasonal, there's farm visas and things like that. I can't find good information on the status of those visa programs in this new administration. So part of me wonders, what is happening in the farm worker community in terms of people, migrant workforces being able to travel freely to their seasonal work jobs, right? And so that is one. And then what they're saying here is also just think about all of the immigrant workforce that, is pervasive throughout our community, house building, and et cetera. So it is very interesting. I just haven't found good information yet on what the anticipation is. And I need to understand better kind of harvest and planting seasons. Now, I realize that my dad was an agricultural engineer, and he designed large-scale harvesting and irrigation machinery. That's what he did in his life. So I know a tiny bit about the old days of farm workers and their situation. But I don't understand if they think that somehow the robotics answer is going to help them in terms of the building and, kind of farm working. Again, that is technology. I don't see that that's necessarily been developed and been in use. Furthermore, there's other aspects to the food industry that I'm not totally familiar with in terms of how these tariffs now impact them and the subsidies and all that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of, right. And now immigrants who are here are fearful of even showing up to work. You know what I mean? So I haven't heard a lot about that. And I kind of wonder, Neil Laverdiere, LA Times, bucking Trump's tariffs, California will push to maintain global trade independently, Newsom says. Well, I hope he does. It's not going to be tomorrow anyway. Yeah, exactly. It's not tomorrow. So I don't know when the seasons are. I should do more information. Ronald Reagan pretty much destroyed the migrant workers program. And then when Trump got elected, the last time, he made it even worse. I follow the crab pickers. Interesting. Yeah, I don't know. That's just in my mind too, right? That's just in my mind too. So, more to come. Okay, let's keep going.
I think for a long time we're still going to see upward pressure.
Thanks for indulging.
On housing prices, maybe until population growth slows or until we catch up.
Wait, what?
You mentioned that we're kind of in a period of waiting right now to see how policy ripples out through the economy. How long do you expect that to take? How long do you expect these big policy changes to show up in our day-to-day lives, in prices and supplies?
Maybe that's the plan.
And things like that.
I mean, for a while we didn't know what was coming on April 2. Now we know what came on April 2. We don't know. There's a lot more to be said about how all that shakes out. But we've come through that, and I think you now know that the tariffs are larger than people were generally expecting. That much you know now at this point. And you'll know more as you start to see the effects on the economy. So, as the months go by, it's hard to say exactly when you'll know. But
so I guess just wait and see. That's what he's saying.
Is ongoing. We're just seeing that these are new policies, not just the tariff policies, but the other ones as well. There'll be important fiscal legislation coming up fairly soon, and there'll be regulatory changes, significant regulatory changes. You have to really look at all of that to see what the overall effect will be. So I can't give you a date, but all of that is now kind of coming into place at sort of the speed you would expect policy changes to be, and then we'll begin to see the real economic effects as the year goes on. But again, I can't give you a really specific date.
Is the fiscal legislation the tax cuts?
Well, yes. I mean, I know they're contemplating, and we don't comment on fiscal policy, but what I read is that they're contemplating, making the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act cuts permanent, and also perhaps some other things as well. We wouldn't be. We have a sort of a placeholder for that too, but that's really not ours to comment on. But that's what I was talking about. Yes.
So I had a question from a friend in Milwaukee who said she has clients that have deals ready to go, businesses that are ready to launch from their garage to a private equity deal, and they're just stuck in their garage right now. How long do you think, what do you think the impact of the uncertainty these days will have on the private equity deals?
So again, we're hearing a lot of that. People are they're just kind of waiting for clarity, waiting for clarity. So, and I can't tell you when that will pass, but ultimately it will pass. We know that at a certain point we'll know enough to know what the uncertainty will decline, and we'll be able to see with real clarity what the policies are and what their effects are. So, you're right. We hear the same thing from businesses and from people that they're kind of waiting and seeing. There's a lot of waiting and seeing going on, including by us, and that just seems like the right thing to do at a time of elevated uncertainty.
What economic indicators are you watching right now? I mean, very famously, you look at the CPE and obviously the CPI and things like that. But are there any economic indicators in this moment, in these circumstances, that you are watching, focused on,
Sure.
interested in?
So the basic two big data pools are the data around prices and around employment. And we get in the employment area, we get just really that's an area where we actually get pretty good data. Although the survey response rates have been lower, nonetheless, we get a lot of different data. And it's not just unemployment, it's participation, it's by age group and things like that. It's wages, it's many, many different things. It's jobs, it's quits, all the job creation, quits, openings, all those things. So that's one thing. On inflation, we target PCE, personal consumption expenditure inflation, not CPI. And the two are broadly, they move they move together, but 25 years ago, the Fed switched to PCE. The public looks at CPI. It's kind of a little bit of a thing, but because we think, it's really just a better way to capture the inflation, the cost pressures that households and businesses feel. We think it's a better measure, and that's what we look at. But they're not that different. I mean, they look at different measures. Ultimately, they're pretty close together. Those things. On growth, you look at what's happening with consumer spending. The economy is overwhelmingly driven by consumer spending. So you look at how are consumer surveys, how are they feeling, how are they spending? Sometimes the surveys are very negative, but they keep spending. That's been happening really for a while. People spent right through the pandemic, and they spent right through this time of higher inflation. They kept spending, and forecasters kept thinking, like us, kept thinking that consumption would slow down. But that's a really critical thing. After that, business investment is a big chunk, and you look at that, and that is also susceptible to sentiment. Businesses, if they don't know what to do, they're not going to do an acquisition, or they're going to hold off on building a factory or a plant or hiring people and things like that. So we look at, I could go on for a long time. We look at a lot of data, and we try to make sense. We also talk to people who are in the real economy. I grew my career was mostly in the private sector, talking to people who ran businesses. And for me, the story doesn't come together until I actually hear from people who are in the economy doing things and what they're feeling and seeing, and then it sort of fits together better.
Is this like via the Beige Book, or
just Beige Book? Thank you for mentioning the Beige Book, and I hope you read it.
I love the Beige Book.
See, that's great. Everyone should read the Beige Book. The Beige Book comes out sort of mid-FOMC cycle, and it's all the 12 reserve banks and all of their incredible contacts, what they're saying about what's going on in the economy. So if you want to know, you can look at the national data, but if you want to know what's going on in regions and at different industries, you look at the Beige Book. So it's really a critical thing. And actually, the reserve bank system that we have is an enormous strength of the Federal Reserve System. We have these 12 reserve banks with their own, economics departments and own participants on the FOMC. So that's a great thing to look at.
I'd like to ask you about another body of work that many of us know that you're familiar with, and that's the Grateful Dead. So, question for you, sir. American Beauty or Terrapin Station?
American Beauty.
Well, it's not even a
Not even
pause.
close.
That was
Ask me a
so
hard one.
fast.
Working
No,
Man's
that's my era. That's my era.
There's the
Working
Beige
Man's
Book
Dead?
Yes.
link right there.
72.
Oh, both. Yeah,
come
that's
on.
my era. We're in the same era here. So that's for me. It's late '60s to mid '70s. So you're.
Touch of Grey, what do you think?
It was their only hit, but it's a good song.
Okay.
Yeah.
Finally,
Are we going to do this?
I feel like you're speaking another language.
He's a nerd.
there's a well-known
He's a deadhead.
Grateful Dead bootlegger who, with believe the permission of the band, Dick's Picks, who's put out. So what's your recommendation of those hundreds of
I don't have any Dick's Picks. Like I said, my real interest was
I need that clip.
Late 60s to mid 70s.
Yeah.
I saw him a bunch of times, and I know every note on every song from that era, but since then I've been busy, actually.
You guys Dick Picks?
Thank you for taking time out of your schedule to join us here.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Wow, that was really good. Thank you, Gal, for alerting us that was happening. I have a few more things to read, so you're not going anywhere. So just stop it. You're not going anywhere. So there. I want to. Yeah, he's a deadhead, apparently. I'm going to end with like 3 different pieces. A couple of them are from our friend Dave Troy, who's very smart person. But I'm going to go in the Wayback Machine because I found a Dave Troy piece that he put out and he re-upped in the last day or so. And it's from it's July 30th, 2024. Oops, I should get rid of that. Hold on. Hold on to your love. You've got to hold on. Hold on to your love. Where's my thing? You got to hold on. Hold on. Whoa, don't let go. Where is it? Where is it? Wow, where is it? Oh, here we go. All right. Thank you. This bothers me. Let's see. Jane says Del Monte owns the majority of the land in the Niagara area. It's called the Fruit Belt. They bring in a lot of migrant workers in the summer. Oh, but that's Canada, so not affected. Jane. It's so true. Yes, Reagan was scared of Cesar Chavez and Dolores Huerta, so he signed the Immigration Reform and Control Act of 1986. Yeah. As you may know, my family, part of my beginnings in civil disobedience and protest and caring about other humans was because my dad, because he worked in the agricultural sector and spent a lot of time on farms in Central California and et cetera, he taught us and helped us understand the plight of farm workers as Cesar Chavez was rising up in the 70s. So we were very much as a family involved in the local farm workers movement in San Jose and California. And supporting the protests, but supporting the boycotts, doing that work. And so my dad really gratefully introduced us to that plight and that the conditions that the farm workers worked in and lived in were incredible, so much worse than they even are at this moment, which are still bad. So to this day. And I know that because I'm part of my after school programming back in the maybe 2010s, was working as a part of an after school program for girls in middle and high school to create social change in their community through collaboration and projects and kind of developing critical thinking and, developing a sense of agency and other things. And one of the groups that I volunteered to run as part of that, I worked in the organization, but I volunteered my time to then run an after school program in Watsonville, California, which is a big part of the farm area in Northern California. So I got to know my particular group of girls were farm workers' children. And so I got a more recent view of a little bit of what life was like. And it's still not what it needs to be in any way, shape, or form. The conditions are not good. There's poverty. There's a lot of trafficking. We had a girl that was trafficked back into Mexico during the 14 weeks that I spent. So I'm going to tell you right now, it's still not anywhere close to where it needs to be, but Cesar Chavez and Dolores Huerta did amazing things to to bring attention to that issue. So anyway, sorry, all to say, I don't know what else to say, but I just, I do wonder, like, I wonder about that and what a big part of our economy that is. And just the fear and the human rights abuse of that. So then I turned to Dave Troy to feel better. This is from, again, July 2024, The Wide Angle, Peter Thiel and the American Apocalypse. No big deal. There's 2 little testicles on my screen right now. All right, here we go. Dave Troy, settle in. Between the attempted assassination of Donald Dump, Joe Biden's withdrawal from the race, and the rapid coalescence around Kamala Harris as the presumptive Democratic nominee, everyone's rushing to update their political calculus. But there's one recurring thread that haunts us people that aren't yet talking about. The debt ceiling, which must be addressed once again by January 2nd, 2025. As I've reported in the Washington Spectator previously, any default on U.S. debt would be unprecedented, sparking a global catastrophe with unpredictable outcomes. How soon we forget. In 2021, Moody's estimated that default could mean the loss of at least 6 million jobs. Sorry, I need to move this. And the destruction of $15 trillion. In wealth. Well, the market lost $3 trillion on Tuesday. Dave, does that count? Or Thursday, I mean. Not funny. Okay. Okay. The COVID bailout packages amounted to about $4 trillion by comparison. And we just lost $3 trillion yesterday. Just kidding. Not the same thing. I'm comparing apples and oranges. We got lucky in 2021 when Congress passed a $2.5 trillion increase right before the Christmas break. That kicked the can down the road to January 19, 2023, when we hit the limit once again. Janet Yellen enacted extraordinary measures to stretch available cash until June 5th. House Speaker Kevin McCarthy and President Biden struck a deal which was passed just days before default, or X date. The deal, which really only registered with political and finance nerds, brought us until January 2025. Bought us. If sane people are elected to Congress and the presidency, they do look like testicles. Sometimes I love reading old stuff. It's wise to plan for, but these are not sane times. It's wise to plan for the worst, which unfortunately is quite a plausible eventuality. Well, fun fact, here we are. J.D. Vance's selection as Trump's running mate suggests that Vance's benefactor, Peter Thiel, is running the show, reprising an aborted effort to run the show from 2016. He seems to have learned from his mistakes. Thiel's main hook into the first Trump administration was Steve Bannon. Steve Bannon, and their efforts were largely stymied by Ivanka Trump and Jared Kushner and other advisors. Bannon was ultimately forced out and left the administration after the deadly white supremacist Unite the Right rally in Charlottesville in August 2017. In The Contrarian, a 2021 biography of Thiel, author Max Chafkin describes Vance as an extension of Thiel, who was a primary funder of Vance's victorious 2022 race for Senate in Ohio. If Trump wins, Vance will be a heartbeat away from the presidency, and that should give everyone palpitations of their own. Girl, tell me about it. A new Congress will be sworn in on January 3rd, 2025, one day after we hit the debt ceiling. The Treasury Secretary, presumably Janet Yellen, will then again have to enact extraordinary measures to avoid default. That may buy us anywhere from a few weeks to a few months, depending on who is elected president and who is appointed Treasury Secretary. President Biden must try to prevail on Congress to put together another debt ceiling deal before the end of the year. If that doesn't happen, the task will fall to the next president. Depending on who is in control of the House and the Senate after the election, well, guess what? Hold my beer. The idiots are. The current Congress may decline to act and wait for the next Congress to take this up, adding to the drama. And if Mike Johnson retains his status of Speaker of the House, it is possible that the House will not introduce a bill at all. Or if they do, it might be coupled with draconian measures like a return to pre-COVID budget levels, as the Cato Institute and others have proposed. Joe Lonsdale interviewing Leonard Leo of the Federalist Society on his podcast, American Optimist. Wow, look at that hair. Wow, it's pretty. The biggest concern, however, is that Thiel is coordinating with his old PayPal mafia colleagues, including David Sachs, Elon Musk, and Joe Lonsdale. While Thiel runs Vance, Sachs is bundling contributions and running his own propaganda effort in support of the Republican campaign. Musk and Lonsdale have recently teamed up to create a super PAC in support of the Trump-Vance ticket, and which has been buffeted almost daily by revelations of Vance's earlier denunciations of Trump and his own bizarre views on women and human sexuality. The Wall Street Journal reported that Musk might support that PAC to the tune of around $45 million per month. Okay, we know that's like history. But since the America PAC, which is run by Lonsdale, appears to be created to support the PayPal mafia worldview, which includes and indeed depends on the bankruptcy of the United States. See below. Another secretive group called the Rockbridge Network, founded in 2019 by Vance, Thiel, and Chris Buskirk, publisher of the pro-Trump outlet American Greatness, may have helped provide Vance with the necessary momentum to become a favorite for VP. According to Puck News, the group's network has included Republican donors Harlan Crow, Rebecca Mercer, David Sachs, and other familiar names. According to Chafkin, Thiel believes that the 2008 financial crisis should have led to a depression. Indeed, it was the investment thesis of his firm, Clarium Capital, that this would happen. But low interest rates and other bailout measures kept Thiel's bet against the United States from working out. Now, he's out for revenge. Let's see. These are 2023. Given federal expenditures, it's a matter of when, not if we default. Elmo, 2023. Let's see. So this is just all the heated tweets from Elon suggesting that the United States will default on its debt. So these are just a number of tweets from over the years. Musk has expressed similar views in connection to last year's debt ceiling standoff. In April 2023, he said, given federal expenditures, it's a matter of when, not if, we default. And he's taken up a similar line more recently. This week, Musk tweeted, America is going bankrupt, but BTW, by the way, citing a story that claims interest debt is eating 76% of all income taxes collected. Oh, and that's another thing. I can also see a world where, they've talked, Howard Nutlicker has talked about, the plan is to eliminate taxes, income taxes altogether on, people making under $150,000 a year, on households making under $150,000. Well, that's actually a use tax, because that means that the tariff prices can be translated into a use tax, and that's how you pay your taxes. So, yeah. And I'm not sure how your wages go up. I haven't read how they think that's going to happen. But there you go. Oh, Florida's trying to pass a law to eliminate imaginary chemtrails. Great. The Chuds will be so happy. So the wager is tanking the U.S. financially and then take over finance with Bitcoin. I think there's a lot of that in there. I think it's, for me, what's actually unfolding can be complicated based on whoever is benefiting from it, right? So that's the quandary, is that I don't think it's a straight line per se. I think it's a general approach that then is manipulated along the way by whoever is more powerful, right, in the moment. Let's say Elmo's the most powerful one right now. Oh, Thiel. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, no, he wants to privatize it all. I mean, I think what we're experiencing is a fire sale in some regards. That if you tank the dollar, and if you AI the government, and then you network state and kind of divide it so that corporations are stepping in and helping, quote unquote, municipalities or whatever, or regions or counties or states or whatever, right? I can see a world where the evolution in their minds is to that kind of level of corporate ownership of regions and, kind of an AI service economy, if you will. So that they're not building anything for people. They're building something to babysit people, if you will. Again, that's my view of kind of when I look at this, when I think about down the road, what could be a possible, like who would benefit? I could see where that would benefit. However, one may feel about national debt and the need to curb budget deficits. One thing is certain, a default will launch a global catastrophe from which recovery will be difficult or even impossible. And unfortunately, this seems to be their plan, and it is aligned with similar ideas expressed by Christian nationalist and Putin-aligned actors. James Scaminacci, other network states and vapor currency. Blockchain. James Scaminacci, a scholar of Christian nationalism, has warned about the North Pole strategy, a scheme dreamed up by Christian firebrand Gary North and the libertarian ideologue Ron Paul. Their plan envisions taking control of the United States through bankruptcy, asserting that God's judgment, which is pro-revolution, will produce a cataclysmic collapse of the American political economic system. That's a quote. In 2013, North predicted a great default on $205 trillion of unfunded liabilities. So just don't pay your bills. Sergei Glaziev, an economist leading the idea of a BRICS currency as an alternative to the US dollar. Oh, I think that's my dog. All right, hold on. I'm going to put on a show and then I got to walk the dog because he's really upset. And I understand why he's upset. Hold on. Sorry. Let me put on a clip for you to watch. Yeah. Fuck. I never have this like lined up the way I want it. I'm sorry. I suck. Yeah, I suck. Hey, how about you? Yeah. Krusty Krab pizza is the pizza for you and me. Krusty Krab, yeah. Oh, the market's down? Oh, bummer. Okay, wait, let me go to my watch later, because I had a couple of things that are kind of good. Now. Oh, I know, I'm going to play this Democracy Now! Thing. Hold on.
U.S. history, including
Hold on. Amy, calm down. Calm down, Amy. Calm down. All right, here you go. Enjoy Amy Goodman.
Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. Global stock markets are tumbling after President Trump unveiled the biggest hike in global tariffs in modern U.S. history, including a 10% blanket tariff on all imported goods from about 185 countries. In addition, many U.S. trading partners, including the European Union, China, and Japan, will see even higher tariffs. China now faces a total 54% tariff. Trump announced the plan during a speech in the Rose Garden at the White House.
My fellow Americans, this is Liberation Day, waiting for a long time. April 2nd, 2025 will forever be remembered as the day American industry was reborn, the day America's destiny was reclaimed, and the day that we began to make America wealthy again. We're going to make it wealthy, good and wealthy. For decades, our country has been looted, pillaged, raped, and plundered by nations near and far, both friend and foe alike. American steelworkers, auto workers, farmers, and skilled craftsmen, we have a lot of them here with us today. They really suffered gravely. They watched in anguish as foreign leaders have stolen our jobs, foreign cheaters have ransacked our factories, and foreign scavengers have torn apart our once beautiful American dream.
The impact of Trump's tariffs are expected to be felt around the world. While Trump claims the tariffs will boost the U.S. economy, many economists fear it could lead to a recession or worse. Trump's trade war could also shift global alliances.
This is great because I got to smoke some
trading
weed.
Partners, China, Japan, South Korea have already announced plans
and the
to
pension
increase
accounts,
trading
this is
ties
bad.
and coordinate their
it's not good if it goes on too long.
Trump's tariffs. We
It's
begin
okay if
today's
there's
show
a
with
dip and it
Richard
buys
Wolff,
back,
Professor of
but if it
Economics
goes on too long,
Emeritus,
it's going to be tough.
University of Massachusetts Amherst, visiting professor in the graduate program in international affairs at the New School. He's the founder of Democracy at Work and hosts a weekly national TV radio program called Economic Update, the author of a number of books, including most recently Understanding Capitalism and The Sickness is the System, when capitalism fails to save us from pandemics or itself. Professor Wolff, it's great to have you with us again. Well, start off by responding to, and were you surprised, shocked, or do you guess that, well, about 185 countries were going to see increased or tariffs?
On the one hand, we knew something like this was coming. On the other hand, the sweep and the scope of it does make you stop. Mr. Trump is right. It is a changing moment in American history and world history. But I think his representation of what's going on is completely fantastical and has only to do with the self-promotion that he is engaged in most of the time. It was never foreigners who did it to us. This notion of the United States as a victim, we have been one of the greatest beneficiaries in the last 50 years of economic wealth, particularly for people at the top, just like him. It has nothing to do with foreigners taking advantage of us. This attempt to make himself strong and powerful relative to others, to blame the foreigner. These are cheap shots that a real president wouldn't do. And there's the most important point. The American economy is in trouble. The American empire is in decline. We don't want to discuss it in this country. We engage in denial, and instead we are striking out at other people, a sad way of handling a decline. The British Empire declined before us, so did all the others. We are now at that point. We had a great 20th century. 21st century is different. You have to face those problems. That's not being done. What's being done is to say we have difficulties, but they're all somebody else's fault, and we're going to solve it by punishing them. I would like to point out, as you suggest quite rightly, Amy, that the rest of the world is not going to sit by. The United States does not have the power it had in the 20th century. It is not in the position it seems to imagine itself. When the Secretary of the Treasury added to Mr. Trump's comments that he warned the rest of the world not to retaliate, that would
That's in my new
imply
video.
that if they do, there would be escalation. Yes, he said, there will be escalation. Well, nothing will guarantee more escalation than if they do nothing, because then it's an invitation to Mr. Trump to keep doing it as each of these efforts doesn't work.
Given how dramatic this was yesterday, is it possible he was deciding this to the very last second as they put this off? And explain exactly. You're a professor, you're a teacher. Most people don't even realize how tariffs work.
Okay. A tariff is a tax. It's just a particular tax that got that name. It used to be called import duty. All it means is when something comes into the United States that was produced outside and is brought in to be sold, it has to pay a tax, as literally as it crosses our border into our country. It is paid by the American company that brings it in, which may pass it on to the consumer, usually what happens, and the tax goes to Uncle Sam. It goes to Washington. Mr. Trump loved to suggest that tariffs were paid by the others, a little bit like Mexico would pay for the wall. Never happened. It's not going to happen here either. It's an American tax. And there's something remarkable that clues you into how big a change this is, that the Republican Party, which has branded itself as the anti-tax party for a century, is now imposing the most
So we're basically paying the American, we're paying the federal government.
Big problems, and this kind of slapping
That's
the
our
rest
new
of the
taxes,
world is an
are the
attempt
tariffs.
to solve
That's why they want to get rid of
them,
income tax.
but it is not going to work because we don't have the power
They want to replace it with a
anymore.
use tax, basically.
I want to go to UAW President Shawn Fain, who supports Trump's new tariffs, saying last week, "We applaud the Trump administration for stepping up to end the free trade disaster that's devastated working-class communities for decades." Fain spoke Sunday on CBS's Face the Nation.
We've seen over 90,000 manufacturing facilities leave the United States. We've seen, in the big three alone in the last 20 plus years, 65 plants have closed. And so, look, tariffs aren't the total solution. Tariffs are a tool in the toolbox to get these companies to do the right thing, and the intent behind it is to bring jobs back here and invest in the American workers. If they're going to bring jobs back here, they need to be life-sustaining jobs where people can make a good wage, a living wage, have adequate health care, and have a retirement security, and not have to work 7 days a week or multiple jobs just to scrape to get by paycheck to paycheck.
Well, while UAW President Shawn Fain praised Trump's tariffs, he also said he had great concerns about President Trump's move to eliminate contracts for 700,000 federal workers, the firing of workers at the National Institute of Health and other agencies.
I was a bit disappointed. I like Shawn Fain, many of us do. But this was disappointing. To say, basically, I will support the president because he does something that might help my union, even though Shawn Fain knows, as most economists do, that if you put a tax on the goods coming in, they will go up in price because we have to pay that tax now. And that will lead to domestic producers able to raise their prices because their competitors from abroad are stuck with this tax. So we expect a boost to inflation, which is going to hurt the working class of this country in a very serious way, especially if it builds on itself, which often happens when you do tariffs like this. And I want to remind everyone, including Shawn Fain, that the auto workers also represent workers in places that need export markets, that produce in America and sell abroad. When those countries retaliate, as they likely will, we will lose export markets, and that will mean fewer jobs. And no one, let me stress, no one now knows whether the jobs lost from this trade war will be greater or smaller than any jobs that are gained. It is a big risk being taken by Mr. Trump, and if it doesn't go well, it'll be very bad for the American economy. It will produce the recession folks are worried about, because if the prices go up, people buy less, and that loses jobs. When you look at all of this, this is an incredibly risky effort to blame the world, punish the world, and then cross his fingers, which is what he's doing, hoping it comes out all right. Reminds me of the world for metaphor. Security. This is a Hail Mary pass. You throw it down the field. You hope it bounces into your team's hands. But that's all it is, a long shot. And it's a sign of how troubled the American economy now is.
If you can put this in the bigger picture, talk about the tax cuts and how they fit into the tariffs.
Before she gets on to that, I just want to read what Lee is dropping in chat. Private companies made decisions to move operations offshore under Reagan to maximize profits due to cheap labor, not free trade agreements. The UAW layoffs due to these tariffs will. And let's see, need measure of corporate success rather other than profits or the push to reduce costs will continue and never move jobs back to the U.S. There you go. Now, granted, they think overnight we're going to have an entire robot workforce, Lee. I'm sorry. Did you not get the part Howard Nuttlicker said where the robots are going to do the work? And I'm sure that means that somebody's got all those robots built and waiting to go to work. They're just brushing their teeth. Right? That's what I think. Okay. It would work except for vehicle sales were slow due to high prices on certain vehicles. The smart people will always buy small, economical vehicles and just rent trucks when they need them. That's true. Oh, you missed Howard? Okay, well, I will. I'll drop that Howard clip in Discord. And then you can take a look at it. So here we go.
Something like $4 trillion in tax cuts and who benefits. And then talk about the other issues that President Trump keeps saying that they're not going to touch, even though what many call his co-president, Elon Musk, whether he steps back from being, giving speeches or not, going after Social Security, issues like Medicaid.
Let me start with the tax issue.
Excellent
The
point,
biggest
Tom. Hadn't
single
thought of
thing that
that.
Trump did in his first presidency was the tax cut of December 2017. And when that tax cut was written into law, it had a sunset. It expires this year, 2025. If that expiration is allowed to happen, corporations and the rich, who were the big beneficiaries back then, will face a big tax cut. He doesn't want to do that because that's his base, that's his donor support. He doesn't want to have those taxes go back up. Well, then what is he going to have to do? If he keeps on spending and he doesn't let those taxes go back up, he's going to have to borrow trillions, as we have been doing. He doesn't want to be the president who keeps borrowing trillions, in part because the rest of the world is a major creditor of the United States, and they're not going to continue to do it the way they have. So he's in a jam. He has to do something. So his hope is to savage the expenditures in this country. Look what he's doing. Mr. Musk stands there with a chainsaw to give us the clear implication, I'm going to solve the problem on the backs of the working class. I'm firing them all. I don't care what the rest of the working class suffers. I'm going to fire all these people without notice, without plan. Calling this efficient is a silly joke. An efficient process takes time, takes experts. You're not doing that. You're just wholesale firing. Calling that efficiency is an attempt to fool people that shouldn't make any difference. Mr. Trump is now in a jam. He can't get out of this without in some way solving the problem that has been built up. And there is no way other than the one he's doing, because it's the last gasp of how to take away from the mass of the people the ability to borrow. I mean, let's be honest. If you put a tariff, you make everything coming in from abroad more expensive. That means people will buy less of it. They'll shrink their standard of living. If American companies take advantage of the tariff, which they always do by raising their prices, that will also hurt the working class. You are immiserating your workers in order to try to solve the problem you haven't solved before. But here's the irony that may in the end come back to haunt us. Europe has been unable to unify under the umbrella of American alliances. The enmity of the United States is bringing Europe together better than the alliance was able to do. And as you pointed out, very important, China, Japan, and South Korea, with long histories of animosity and tension, are getting together to cope with this. Wow, we are unifying the whole world. If you want the big picture, in my judgment, after World War II, George Kennan taught us about containment. We're going to contain the Soviet Union. The irony, which the philosopher Hegel would enjoy, we are becoming contained. We are isolating ourselves. The votes in the UN are the United States alone, or the United States and Israel and 2 or 3 other countries. The isolation politically, the isolation now economically. We are the rogue nation for the rest of the world. We may not want it, we may not agree, but it doesn't really matter if that's how they perceive us. And that's what's happening.
You talked about South Korea, Japan, and China joining together. One of the biggest announcements of tax cuts was against Taiwan. It's just a little more complicated for Taiwan to join that group.
And also,
Richard Miller.
And also another one was Vietnam, which got a very heavy whack. I mean, is there no recognition of what the United States did to that country?
Richard Wolff.
Maybe you wouldn't want to crush them with this kind of a thing after. I mean, as I'm saying, this is a change. This is a sign to the world that as the United States empire declines, this is a nasty place that's going to, gesture and thrash around, doing damage everywhere as it copes with its own decline.
Former Greek finance minister Yanis Varoufakis recently wrote a piece headlined Donald Trump's Economic Master Plan. He wrote, quote, "This is what his critics don't understand. They mistakenly think he thinks that his tariffs will reduce America's trade deficit on their own. He knows they won't. Their utility comes from their capacity to shock foreign central bankers into reducing domestic interest rates. Consequently, the euro, the yen, and the renminbi will soften relative to the dollar. This will cancel out the price hikes of goods imported into the U.S. and leave the prices American consumers pay unaffected. The tariff countries will be, in effect, paying for Trump's tariffs. Do you agree with that, Professor Wolf?
No, even though Giannis and I do a lot of work together, so normally I defer to him. He's wonderful in his analysis. I don't think this is correct. Is it a possible outcome? Yes. You know, we're in a situation, let me put it this way. Tariffs are not new. They've been around for hundreds of years. If you teach a course in international economics, which I've done, you tell students, here are 1,000 books, here are 5,000 articles. We know. And the answer is, when you impose a tariff, you don't know what the outcome is because it depends on everything else going on. Interest rates, exchange rates of currencies, rising or falling economies around the world. You can't know in advance. It's a very risky thing, which is why for the last 50 years, we have had, administered by the U.S., something called free trade or neoliberal or globalization. All of that is over now. The United States can't win anymore in that system, so it is reverting to economic nationalism. And that's a fundamental shift that throws the world. It was the accepted wisdom for 50 years, the last 50 years, not to do what Mr. Trump is doing now. If you want, you can think that everybody who thought that way for 50 years was wrong, and Mr. Trump, the genius, is correct. But that would be a long shot. Better bet he's trying to save his own political life, and he's trying to cope, to his credit, with a declining economy without having to admit that that's the case. This won't end well. It normally doesn't. And what we're going to see is the fighting against one another of the Europe bloc, the Asian bloc, the American bloc, at a time when the United States is weaker than it has been economically and politically. Look at the debacle in the Ukraine as well. The misunderstanding that the Russians could turn to the Chinese and the Indians to cope with the costs of that war in a way that hadn't been calculated. And is turning out to shape the outcome.
Such a good point.
And it's not a question of which side you're on, but just watching how it lines up. That's the problem.
30 seconds. As you often talk about, are you seeing this as the beginning of the end of American empire?
Yes. I think we are already in 10, 12 years of that decline. It can't. Here's a single best statistic. If you add up the GDP, the total output of goods and services in a year for a country, of the United States and its major allies, the G7, it's about 28% of global output. If you do the same thing for China and the BRICS, it's about 35%. They're already a bigger block of economic power than we are. Every country in the world thinking about building a railroad or expanding its health program. They used to send their people to Washington or London to get help. They still do. But when they're done, they send the same team to Beijing, New Delhi, Sao Paulo, and they often get a better deal. The world is changing. And the United States could cope, but as with alcoholism, you have to admit you have a problem before you're in a position to solve it. We have a nation that does not yet want to face what this all adds up to.
I love that information. I love that information. Oh my goodness. At least Trump's stock is tanking. It's true. It's true. Where was my... I thought I was reading that. Oh, I finished that, didn't I? Oh, yeah, I can't get this Barron's article I wanted. Wow, I just think that stuff is so fascinating. I'm just trying to check and see what else I had lined up here. Hold on, don't leave me. Don't go anywhere. Yeah, really good interview. I'll make sure that link is in there. Okay, I think I'm going to cut it there for today. That's a lot. We've done a lot. Oh my goodness. I'm overwhelmed in a good way. And I feel like I'm a little better informed. Thank you for indulging me on my little learning journey this morning about where we are, where we're going. We have more to do. I have so much more, you guys. I really could do another 4 hours. But yes, let's take a brain break. Every Friday, we're going to go through this stuff, and we're going to try and pick the most current and relevant information to talk about fucked financials. All right. So every Friday, that's what we're going to do. And hopefully every Friday it's going to get a little bit smoother and a little bit better, but that's what we're going to do. I think it's a hit. I'm learning so much. I so much appreciate this opportunity. So I want to thank you, the loungers, for supporting that and sharing in that execution of a dream. I love learning. Oh my God, I love learning. Are you okay, Max? I hope everything's all right. Sending love. I also just want to say, Jim Nalgren, thanks for dropping. Thousands of Lithuanians lined the streets with dignity and respect to honor the 4 lost American soldiers. Trump blew it off and went to play golf and is not meeting the remains of those soldiers who lost their lives in a tragic accident in Lithuania. And so thank you, Lithuanian people, for standing for our children who lost their lives in that accident. Lee, thank you so much. I am so excited to have that online conversation. So if you weren't here earlier, Lee graciously, and in her time away from her job, and I'm sure she'll be still doing parts of her job, she's going to share a little bit online with us on a show of next week, to be named, and we'll be able to hear her voice and get some great wisdom, and just, really love to connect. Yeah, so I'm so excited. And Teresa, thank you. Some of the links I've gotten have been through your sharing as well. Sorry if I never give enough credit. There's just not enough credit I can give to people for what they provide to this show. I just want to tell you that. Every one of you has provided something that makes this show at all interesting. So I'm really grateful to you all for being such a wonderful group of individuals. So thanks. Oh, tonight is movies. No, I haven't picked a movie. You want to know why? Because everybody's a little bitch in the Discord. And nobody wants to watch a Val Kilmer movie. I don't know what the movie is, Tom. I know what the next movie is because Max has given us a selection. But I'm going to tell you right now, there was complete discord within the Discord around fucking Val Kilmer. So I don't even want to deal with it. I don't want to deal with it. I don't want to deal with the shit. We're going to have a Val Kilmer night another night. And then all the grumpy people can come in and just bitch and moan in the chat. But we won't have to hear it. Yeah, fuck Val Kilmer. No Pauly Shore movies. Well, Encino Man? Come on. Anyway. All right, well, fine. You can't disagree in Discord. There's no Discord allowed in Discord. Discord isn't real. Yeah. Lee, have a great time at the game. So much fun. Max, elderly family member in New Mexico has a situation. I need a reference for a trustworthy attorney in Santa Fe or Albuquerque. Anyone can help. Hit me up on Discord. Oh, good. We'll put that call out. I think we might have some connects. So let me see what we can do. Okay, we need a lawyer, a trustworthy attorney in Santa Fe or Albuquerque for a family member, an elderly family member in a situation. So drop any information you may have in Discord. You should be able to direct message Max through Discord if you're a member. So we'll see. I don't know if Keanu was in that or not. Trump's going to roll back these tariffs after his billionaire buddies buy the stock on the cheap. Yeah. What field? I will post Chang interview with Gary's Economics again in Discord. Good watch. I know. I just can't watch Gary's Economics because every time he gives me his pedigree. And frankly, I don't give a shit. I don't give a shit how he's a wunderkind and he's a genius and he went to Oxford and all that shit. I don't give a shit. No, I'm just kidding. Oren says, contact local Alzheimer's Association. They have great elder law contacts. Oh, that might be interesting. It might be good to, I would understand wanting to have a really personal reference for a family member, but that's actually it's a great thing. I hadn't even thought of that. Oh, good luck, Max. I will be interested, and if there's anything obviously that I can do to help from here, please let me know. I did a lot of training with them. Yeah, my sister actually. Yeah. So yeah, I have experience with the Alzheimer's Association. Yeah, there's no fighting in the war room. So yeah, I haven't figured out what the movie is tonight because again, baby's gonna baby. Baby's gonna baby in the Discord. Discordio is gonna discord in the Discord. All right. I keep forgetting my Alzheimer's. There you go. All right. So I will see you later. The movie's going to start at 6. I don't know what movie's going to start at 6, but some movie's going to start at 6, and that's Pacific time. Don't get it wrong. On the Discord, I'll put all the information up. It'll be a huge, wonderful surprise. Aren't you excited? Surprise, surprise. Surprise, surprise. That's right. Yeah. So anyway, thanks again for coming. Great show. I'm really, really, really thankful. So again, thank you. All right.